Yep, we're live.
Yes, you are.
Should that be working now?
You're live.
Yep. Brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Brilliant. Thank you, Phil. Excellent. Brilliant, mate. Thank you very much. Cheers. Right, sorry. Paul, we weren't going live until about 5 seconds ago. So you can log in now and see when we're going live. 1 o'clock. Well, it's live now. So people can choose. You can log in and see what's like. What was your question? No, that's fine. Yeah, it's going. There'll be no sound. We can sound
All of these tech issues.
Yeah. Paul, you know I am a fireman.
The only reason is I need to switch over in the road before I speak to
Yeah.
people that are watching online know that's all this.
If not, what's your brief? Is it just an introduction, or we're going to tell you all the real tips once we finish afterwards? Sorry, mate. Is there any way of muting it briefly?
Yeah, well there is, but I can't see. Do you see
Okay.
at the bottom corner there's the mute button? It looks like a microphone.
Yeah. So I can mute it.
Hi everybody, everybody in the room, everybody at home. Welcome to the 2025 Spectre Racing Cheltenham Festival preview. Got a really good panel for you today. We're going to really avoid doing what all of these previews have done for the last 3 weeks, which is bore the arse of all of us, quite frankly, talking about the same old races, the same old views, and avoiding the handicaps because nobody's really got an opinion. So the opinions are going to come on the handicaps today. We'll touch on the graded races, but only minimally, and then we'll spend some real time on the handicaps. We've obviously got first day declarations in, which is really good. So this is really well timed from that perspective, given we're only 2 days now. In fact, we are 2 days away from the tapes going up and the roar of the Supreme. So hands up in the room, who's actually going to the festival this year? Almost a full house. So, you know, I know we are all Cheltenham tragics. The only reason everybody's online watching us right now and you guys are in the room is because we are all Cheltenham tragics. There's no other way of putting it. You know, we are the equivalent of train spotters, really. We are just train spotters. But we love it. We're fully into it. And as I say, you know, these guys have got, you know, some really good opinions. It's going to be great to see what these guys have got to say. But very quickly before we kick off, you know that the Spectre Racing horses are with Dan Skelton. Really good guy, Dan is. We'd hoped to, Dan's done an introduction for us, and we'd hoped to put on the big screen, but actually, because of the light in the room, it didn't quite work. So Matt, who's on the sound and the video, is just going to play that clip for us before we actually kick off.
Hi everybody, I hope you enjoyed the Spectre Racing Cheltenham preview. Obviously you guys have horses with us and I'm sure we are building into having plenty of success in the coming future. We've also got pretty soon Jeffrey's Cost running as well. So hopefully there's plenty of cheer in the immediate future as well. But looking at Cheltenham, which I know is what you guys are going to be doing for this preview, we've got a number of different chances on Tuesday. Obviously our best chance comes in the Arkle, the second favourite in that race with Load of Sud. I think he's a brilliant chance. He's training very well. His form looks very good to me. Yes, we're taking on Margeborough, but I do think he's got a great chance. We also run Take No Chances on the day in the Mayor's Hurdle. I don't think she should be overlooked, especially if the top 2 in the betting go to the Champion Hurdle. On the Wednesday, we start with the New Lion, who's looked very good, obviously. His training at home has been good. Again, taking on another one of Willie's here. But I like everything about our horse. Yeah, don't really have much more to add, to be honest with you. I think the drying forecast will actually suit our horse as well. We then move on to Be Aware, who I've put up as our best chance in the handicaps. He is a horse that, as long as he settles, I think he's above his mark. It's as simple as that, really. I think if he settles, he's above his mark. How much above his mark? I don't know. I wouldn't call him a certainty by any stretch. You couldn't ever do that in a Cheltenham handicap. I expect him to run well as long as he settles, and winning isn't out of possibilities. Let's say as long as he settles. We've also got Unexpected Party defending his crown in the Grand Annual. He started to look a bit better just recently. Obviously ran nicely at Windsor, and then we've got 3 chances in the bumper. One horse that I think will be overlooked of our whole team is in the bumper called Fortune de Mer. A horse that finished 4th last time out at Huntingdon, and that's why I think he'll get overlooked. But I had to run him. He was so fresh and well at home. I needed to get a run into him. I always knew he'd be keen after a break. He didn't stop pulling until he turned in. But I think he will run very well. The other 2 we run in the bumper, Dalston Lad, 2 from 2, key up the board, second against the horse of Nichols's, who's quite prominent in the betting, are both really, really nice horses in their own right. But Fortune de Mer, if the ground dried back a bit, would definitely be a consideration. For sort of, you know, really high sort of win/place prospects, in my opinion. Dalston Lad's done nothing wrong, but he always comes well at the festival, so you're going to have to take it on trust, just like we are. I haven't seen any more to start jumping up and down recommending it's going to happen, but that's very much often the case with this horse. He's going to go in sets. Friday is a bit of a thinner day for us, but we do have Valgrand in the County Hurdle. I think it's got a great chance, as long as the ground is good to soft, or, you know, soft in places is fine, but certainly not soft heavy for him. And then we do run a few in the last race, the Martin Pipe. We run trying to think of their names now. Nurse Susan, who I think is just going to need to run a fraction. I've done loads with her, but I can't quite get her there after a long layoff. She's very fragile, very, very talented. And then we also, I think at this moment, are going to run Doyle Quest, who I feel has been holding a little bit back since the autumn. We'll probably put cheap pieces on him. And also, West Balboa is into consideration. I think she will run very well if she runs in this. If you watch her run the last day, lots went wrong from turning in, 2 out, hampered at the last. There's a lot that went wrong. And I think she's just coming back to a bit of form. So there we go. I think our best chance, if you're going to think this is a bit out there now, but I think our best chance could be Protectorat, the way he's going at the moment. I've mentioned the handicappers, and the overlooked one, I think, is going to be fortunate there. Have a great festival.
Thank you, Dan. Obviously, a couple of things have changed since Dan did that for us. West Balboa represented in the, it wasn't declared at the 6-day stage for the Martin Pipe. I think there was another one that wasn't declared in the end, but we'll pick that up on the way through. Before we kick on with the races, I just want to say some thanks. First, I want to say thanks to Steve. I know you guys at home can't see Steve. Steve has organised the room, organised this from the football club's perspective. So I want to thank Steve, and I want to thank Long Levens Football Club for hosting us and letting us be here. And I'm really grateful to Lloyd Manier, who owns Hatcher Horse Racing Gifts. So Lloyd has sponsored us today. Some of you guys, you guys that are here, you'll see some stuff on your seats. For you guys at home, you've either heard of him, but if you haven't, Lloyd's business does all of the sort of horse racing apparel, merchandise, cups, these kind of things, scarves, pins, ties, socks, whatever you can get really. It's from a horse racing perspective. He's probably, well, I'm not saying probably, he's the most reasonably priced of all of them out there. He does work for a lot of the owners. You'll see a lot of the branded stuff with colours on. He does stuff for some of the yards. So if you do get a chance, have a look. It's a bit like for Cheltenham Tragics. It's a bit like being a kid in a sweet shop. So, and I'd really genuinely recommend Lloyd's stuff. He's really, really good. So thank you, Lloyd. I know you're watching. We really appreciate the fact that what you've done for us today. I want to thank everybody at home, because I know it's Sunday roast time, and there's always plenty of sport on a Sunday afternoon. So thank you for taking the time out, guys, to tune in. Hopefully you stick with us, and hopefully you can find it worthwhile today. And for you guys that travelled today, really, really do appreciate it. I know you could be doing lots of other things today, and the fact that you've made the effort to be here actually is quite humbling, I have to say. So thank you to you guys. Okay. On to the panel. Who have we got? So we'll start with the man in the mirror. Richard Smith, who is an ex-racing journalist for the Daily Mirror. Really good opinions, very good at digging out big price each way horse. He seems to do it every year. When I nap one in a race, he always seems to pull some big price each way horse out and then beats mine to second. So honestly, if Rich is really sweet on something at a big price today, get your phone out, back it straight away. And honestly, never fails year after year. And as he says, no pressure. Now, I was going to tell a joke about having a cider swigging Daily Mirror journalist, and because he's got Madry. I was going to say that the bar had run out of cider, but I thought the guys in here that want cider are going to go have a drink, so I couldn't say that either. But anyway, welcome to Richard Smith. Thanks a lot. The man in the middle. How many Michael Jackson jokes are we going to go? The man in the middle, Ginger Joe. Most of you guys will know him already. Joe's been doing a lot of stuff online for a long, long time now. Big following. Great to see that the work he does is now really starting to get recognised. He's doing a lot of work with Oz Checker now. You do both the golf and the racing, don't you? Oz Checker. Ex-pro golfer, definitely not ex-pro jockey because the horse's legs are going. But pretty good a record. What did you used to play off?
Oh, that was a good start, isn't it? Good start. Well, I turned pro off +4, which is scratching them 4 better.
Yeah.
So you lose your handicap. I played on tour for about 5-6 years, and when that took a back foot, I thought I'd really try and get involved in racing a little bit more. And so far, so good, Paul. Yes,
absolutely. And I know you've got a big following online, and you do a lot of. Is it Instagram you do?
I've got a Discord group. Yeah, I've got umpteen amount of 1,000 followers on social media. Fair amount on my Discord. Part of the racing club syndicate as well. We've got a few nice horses. We've got one going to Cheltenham, which I'm sure we'll touch on during the night. But yeah, very good. Very glad to be here. Thanks for everyone that's turned up. Sorry, that put me off a little bit.
Essentially, when the bleeping starts, someone's been talking too much. It's the equivalent of midnight in a disco. That's what it is. You guys that follow Fat Jockey, which is a really good resource for anything Cheltenham Festival. You guys that follow that website, you'll know John O'Dell. Anybody that doesn't, by the way, Fat Jockey is just a brilliant resource. If you love Cheltenham, just go to the website fatjockey.co.uk. And I know a lot of you guys in the room use it. A lot of you guys that are online watching now use it. But for those that don't, I definitely recommend it's worth a look. The amount of information on there is just off the charts. It's really good. John has been on there for a long, long time. He is our equivalent of Stato. I was going to start telling jokes. How tall are you, John?
6'6".
6'6". I was going to tell jokes about me looking like Warwick Davis, but he's sitting down and I'm standing up. I know there's no difference when that happens. But Jono's going to dip into his own stats, but he's also going to use Gold Stats. Do you guys use Gold Stats? So Gold Stats, a lot of guys online at home will use Gold Stats. So Gold Stats are basically the Bible stats for trends and stats for Cheltenham. Brian Galt, basically Northern Ireland. He has worked as a bookies clerk for years and years and years. He raises a lot of money for charity with the stats as well. And I know you get stuff elsewhere. You get Paul Ferguson. You get stuff on at the races. This is different level stuff. It really is. It's absolutely fabulous. If you haven't looked at Gold Stats, GAULTSTATS.com. I'd recommend having a look before the festival because you're going to get a mine of information from it. Brian's actually decided to retire from those stats. He's been running for years and years and years. So, Cheltenham Tragics know them inside out and use them. But Brian's decided to retire. So we're going to pick them up and run them now through Spectre Racing. So John's going to dip into those stats today. And, I think the great thing is those stats are going to survive. They're going to keep going and going and going. Really grateful to Brian. I don't know whether Brian's tuned in today, but I'm personally grateful for all the work he's done over the last 20, 25 years or whatever it is. I've really benefited from that. I use those stats and they've found so many winners for me. So anyway, time to press on. That's enough introductions. It's enough. Let's start talking about racing. So we've had the first day decks in today. We are going to touch on all the races briefly, in detail for the handicaps, and we'll briefly touch on the graded races. But is there anything from you guys that you picked up today that you thought was significant? Rich, have you had a chance to have a look?
Yeah. Well, if anybody hasn't had a bet in the champion hurdle or they backed Lossy Marathons going for the mares, another story. I'd say the bet now is Burdett Road each way, 40-1, or if you can get it without Constitution Hill. I just can't see Gordon's horse, the mare. She couldn't win the novice hurdle last year, and she's not a 2-miler. And on the prevailing ground, I just don't see it happening. And I think Burdett Road at 40-1 to come second is the only value bet in the race as far as I can see. I fancy Constitution Hill to win. I've not backed him at all. I thought he wasn't going to make it. I've been poo-pooing him all winter, but he looks to be back to something like the old Constitution Hill State man. Couldn't have him now. And Burdett Road, I think, is a very good horse, and so that's the bet for me. And he was also entered for the county, and it's significant in my view that they've chosen the champion hurdle. So 40-1 each way, Burdett Road, or if you can get prices, I haven't looked this morning without Constitution Hill, then taken each way then just in case Elliot's horse proves me wrong.
Okay, good shout. So place bet on Burdett Road or in the black market.
Yeah.
So the only thing I'd say to that, Rich, is I think that mare's race last year was really a bit of a crawl. Really didn't suit her at all. I think we probably saw more of a true runner at Aintree.
Yeah, I don't buy that. I don't buy that. Well, it was, she couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. And you can make excuses, but the best evidence we've got in terms of making a bet is what happened on the course. She couldn't win that race. And so there are no excuses when the takes go up. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, look, we're going to cover the race briefly shortly. I'm going to ask for a show of hands to see where everybody's with that, because I reckon we're against Rich. Joe, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I suppose the most notable thing that came out of the declarations this morning is that if you take a look back at last season's Cheltenham Festival, Paul Townend had one ride in any of the handicaps, and that was absurd in the county. This year he has been jocked up on Sunny Bill in the Fred Winter. But he's only a 136 rated horse. He's got plenty of time to sort of reach the heights where he needs to. But the fact that they've got the likes of Mercier and other horses ahead of him, and the fact that he's even taken a ride within this race, I think is really significant. He came fifth in the Spring Juvenile at the DRF. That form usually works out really nice. I think it's a really good indicator that Paul Townend's on board. And you'd like to suggest then that marker 136 underestimates his true ability. He travels well, he jumps well, and he was sort of minded after the second last where he made a slight mistake, but he settles nicely. He's not going to have any issue as a juvenile going to Cheltenham. He's probably going underestimated. He started this morning at around 50-1. Since the jockey booking, he's already into 20-1, 16-1. But he's got to be a live player. Paul Townend's willing to take the ride in one of the handicaps, especially on day one. It's plenty significant for me.
Do you know what? That's the benefit. It's all of us have driven here today, haven't we? Has everybody driven here? This is the man that had a driver. So when the decks were out, he was sat there going through the decks this morning while we were scrambling just before this to find out what's happening. So there you go. But I'm so glad. That's a really good shout, Jack. I love that shout. Love it. I hate Riches. Love Joe's. John?
Yeah, so I think actually the biggest takeout I got from Dex wasn't actually day one. Obviously, Mares Hurdle, everyone saw Lossiemouth. Cargese wasn't declared in the Mares. The County Hurdle Friday is going to be an incredibly hot race. There's a lot laid out for that, but the fact that she almost certainly goes there now, I think she could be absolutely thrown in. So we'll probably touch on her later on Friday, but yeah, that. Obviously, they've got Lossiemouth, they've got Jake Grugy, they've got Garland Marceau. So they're stacked in the race. You can see why they've done it, but I think the County Hurdle's going to suit her absolutely down to the ground.
Yeah, I think the doubt about her is her ability to settle, isn't it? And a fast pace in that county helps that enormously. She's not having to make her own running, and Townend, presumably if he's riding, which I'm guessing he will ride now.
I think he might be on absurd.
Okay.
Like last year.
So Joe thinks maybe absurd. So it's a fair point though. Jockey booking is going to be really interesting for that on Friday. I think he'd want Townend on Cargese. That would be my view.
I think you take Danny Mullins as well, one of the two. But I find it hard to see Paul Townend jumping off last year's winner. They sort of minded him for the race as well. They haven't affected his mark. He was good enough to win a listed race on the flat and then ran well in the Melbourne Cup as well. They then sort of shut up shop. They've left him to be fresh for the county. I don't see how he'd get off the horse myself. But like you said, Paul, you'd want a decent jockey, so you definitely prefer Danny Mullins over Patrick, for example. And that would be a major boost to the form boost too.
I guess just one other thing with that. If you were Kenny Alexander, how would you feel about it, do you think?
I mean, how would you feel about Rachel Blackmore riding Mercia as well for Kenny Alexander and the Boodles when, again, she's the one that's probably shown better form than Sunnyville to this point, but Townend's opted to ride Sunnyville over Mercia. So it's a similar question, isn't it? But I suppose at least with the county, you can't really expect him to get off a horse that he won on last year in such a deep race. I actually think Absurd is borderline champion hurdle quality, especially if they were in a fastly run race. Obviously, as you mentioned, Paul, the county is going to be a really fast run race as well. So it's only going to suit. I don't think they could expect Townend to get off Absurd to ride Carjesi.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Right, mindful of the fact that we probably just saved 20 minutes there by doing the county, but we will come back to it. So we're going to do all the grading races very briefly before we take a quick break to allow everybody to go to the toilet, eat a Sunday lunch if they want to, whatever it is that people are going to do. So we've got the final decks now for the Supreme, Rich. Where are you?
Well,
You for or against the favourite?
I'm very much with the favourite big time. But I think Romeo Coolio is a real danger. Well, if the ground is genuinely good to soft, I think he's got a big chance. Last year, to my mind, in the bumper, he was the best horse in the race and he was beaten by the ground. He's a speed horse. Yeah. So, and how be fantastic to see Jack in the winner's enclosure. I'd rather it wasn't in that race personally, but I haven't got a bean on Romeo Coolio, but he's a line player.
Joe, you would go back?
I wouldn't go in backing him at this price. I think he's got a little bit to prove with regards to coming to Cheltenham. There's no question that his ability is exceptional, but he's by a horse called No Risk at All. A really consistent, impressive stallion. Willie Mullins uses this stallion quite a lot, but he has produced the likes of Allaho, Allegory Devassi, Blood Destiny. These are generally horses that do better for a slight step up in trip. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't got the speed to go and win a Supreme, but he's sporting a first-time hood. He has been very free in his races. He's been keen. You need to settle in a Supreme. You can't go doing too much too early because you're going to struggle to get out of that hill. Now, a lot of the time you'll hear the quote thrown around that you need stamina to go and win a Supreme. I think it's actually a slight misconception. It's more a case that you need a horse that can maintain that top speed coming up the hill. Doesn't necessarily mean you need a 3 miler running in the 2 mile race because it just doesn't happen. Now, I do get vibes of more Ballyburn from Copec the Board. I think he'll do better when he goes out and trip. And there's no doubt he's obviously got an exceptional engine. He improved from first start to second. But on that basis, I would prefer to side with Work Ahead each way. He's a horse that's done very little wrong. Henry was happy to come and bring him to this race fresh. He settles, he jumps well, he goes hard from the front. I think he's the one you'd want to be siding with here. I'd be a little bit concerned about the ability of Copec the Board having to settle in those early prelims. I think it's underestimated how much of a big something to overcome, especially with these young horses. He won't have experienced anything like this before. Whereas Work Ahead, he's a pointer. He's actually a year old. He's spent plenty of time off the racetrack. He'll be plenty set up for this. He'll kick over early. He'll be catch me if you can for Work Ahead. So I'd happily side with him each way. Can't see him being out of the first 3 rather than taking a chance for odds on for Copec the Board. Now look, he may go and win, but unless you're on odds on, unless you're on anti-post prices, I wouldn't go getting too stuck in myself at this point in time.
Just one question on that one, Joe. Forget pricing. You know, they're all evens. You Copec or Work Ahead?
Yeah, I'd be with Copec on that basis. Yeah, I'd just rather try and get myself a bit of 2-1 each way for the place for Work Ahead rather than steaming in on an odds-on shot in the open race. We've had plenty of these odds-on shots turned over in the Supreme as well. He may look like the obvious one, but it is also possible that race he won in Leopardstown completely fell apart. We haven't seen him come off the bridle yet. We don't know what's under the bonnet. Until we do, there's still a question to answer. He's got to do it on the biggest stage for a young novice as well.
Yeah. John, layer or player?
I think he's exceptional. I think he's got a field here, and he's just a level above. BHA rating of 157. That's huge. Second run. His debut, we did so much wrong. Cowabunga, look how that form's played out. Obviously, the second that day, missed the festival, got injured. You look at that Dublin Racing Festival, since the 6th run in, since it got introduced, you've had Ballyburn, Sam Crow, Gerhard have won that race. They've won the Ballymore. You've got Appreciate It, Classical Dream. They won the Supreme. The only one that didn't win was Assyrian Flonge, who, I mean, look how he jumped to the right. He just blew his chance away. Obviously, everyone's going to say about the prelims for Copec the Board. absolutely, I get it. And one thing also I haven't seen kind of mentioned is you generally get a false start in the Supreme. 3 of the last 5, that might not help him. And I think the Lake as well is another false start. The flip side of that is Classical Dream. In 2019, he had a false start. He actually caused a false start. He did everything wrong leading up. Obviously, with Willie Mullins, he still won. I think cope with the boards. But looking ahead to next year's festival, I think it's a deep Supreme in terms of runners. But he's the only one that I'm thinking next year I want him on side. I think the rest are kind of £5 to £7 lower than him.
Look, and my view on that is pretty much the same as yours, John. I think he is at least half a stone better than anything else in the field, probably slightly more. There is that worry about him boiling over. They put the hood on.
Would that worry you, Paul, that he's putting the hood on? They've decided this from what they've seen at home.
It would worry me if they didn't put the hood on, if I'm really honest. I think it's the other way around. You know, in Willie we trust, I think. Yeah,
Sorry, Paul, just one thing on the hood. Obviously, last year, your Gaelic Warrior was hooded. All the trends, all the stats said ARC winners don't win if they're hooded up, and he did. Willie Mullins will win a race.
We were talking about trends earlier, and if you want something to break a trend, it's always going to be Willie Mullins, isn't it? But yeah, look, for me, I actually think it's a really good Supreme this year. I think it was a poor, well, history tells us it was a poor Supreme last year. And you've got to look at where all those horses are going from last year. But I don't think this is. I think we're getting a really good addition with a standout horse. We've got horses that are borderline 150. There's 4 or 5 horses that actually are borderline 150. That kind of rating is good enough to win an average Supreme. And actually, there's probably 5 horses rating-wise that go into this Supreme ahead of any one of last year's winners. I think that's right. If it's not, then somebody will correct me, but I'm fairly sure it's either 4 or 5 horses this year that are already rated higher than last year's bunch. So I think we've got a good race on our hands. Anyway, look, I think the balance was...
One last thing on obviously work ahead. Interesting stat is I think Henry de Bromhead, if you take his runners that haven't ran in a graded race before the festival, they're 0 to 51. Obviously, he's breaking the mould of work ahead. Might be laid out for it, but it's not his usual kind of go-to.
So, look, the panel is 3 out of 4 in favour of the favourite. What about the room? Hands up if you're a player for Kopeck. Ooh, that's less comprehensive. I'd say that's maybe 1 in 3.
How many?
So that's probably 2/3 against in the room.
How many are on anti-post as well, Paul, rather than backing him at this price now?
Yeah, good point.
You should be happy with yourselves with those prices, that's for sure.
Yeah. So for those at home, there were probably only 5 or 6 people that were on that anti-post prices, the bigger prices. So that will have an influence, I guess. When you're looking at odds on, and you're looking at backing now, I understand why people will be against. Right, the article we're going to do quickly. I think it really is Madbury, yes or no? Just hands, guys. You Madbury player?
If match for jobs, then yeah. If Ludus could get match which make mistakes, then maybe not.
Yeah, he's too good for this bunch. He's one of 2 exceptional juveniles from last year. What I will say, anyone who is going to Cheltenham on the Tuesday, just go and have a look at this boy in the parade ring. He is absolutely huge. He will be an absolute standout picture. It's really nice to see in the flesh. But yeah, I don't see how he gets beat. A lot of people were crapping his jumping, and DRF, I do appreciate that. But for me, when you see a 5-year-old be able to come in close, put himself right, he never looked like falling. And every fence that he did meet on a good stride, he absolutely wins. I don't see, bar an accident, how he gets beat here. So.
Yeah, he wins. I mean, Willie Mullins loves this horse. He mentions him all the time. I think he's a star in the making.
I think actually just a take-out for me that last year's juveniles were clearly an exceptional bunch. We're also talking about Cargesi for the county hurdle. And actually, as you work your way through all of the cards across the 4 days, it's worth looking at last year's juveniles, where they finished and how they ran against the best of the bunch. You know, we're looking at Lark in the morning as a fairly short price horse for the county. Cargeezy's going to go in the county. Nichols has got, so I'll get the K's mixed up. Cadwell's and Matan, is it? Yeah, there are several horses across the festival. They're all worth, you know, a second look, even if they're not the ones the more obvious ones. But I think the point that was made there actually is the jumping thing. I think he wins if he jumps, if I'm really honest. I think Low de Sood has been underestimated. I think people just have him down as a handicapper, and I think he's much better than a handicapper. When you listen to Dan, you know, talking before we kicked off with all of this, I now know how highly he rates him. He was very unexposed last year and just always seemed to bump into a really good one. You know, Joe, you were talking about Absurd beating him in the county. The two put a long way clear. And you're talking about a horse that you think wouldn't be out of place there or thereabouts in the champion hurdle. So I don't think we can ignore him. I know a few people were concerned about that run at Warwick, but you know, he wasn't fully wound up for that race, and they tried to put Harry tried to put the race to bed very early. He went a long way out, and he just sort of started to tie up at the line. So I don't think Madge was going to have it all his own way, but you know, I have to say I really like that with the DRF. I thought he was really smart. So, and again, just in the room, who's for Madge? So again, about 50-50. So, you know, all four of us, I think, are on the Madge side, 50-50 in the room. So, okay, so we move on to where do we go to? The Mayor's Hurdle. Oh God, where do we go here? Right, we're not going to talk about, you know, what people think about the decision that was made. That's going to get done to death. Let's just say, you know, again, just quick hands up from the panel, actually. Lossy Mouth, yes or no? Hands up if it's a yes.
I'd be a little bit concerned the fact that they've used this a little bit as an afterthought. The plan was for 2 years that she was going to turn into a champion hurdle horse. The fact that she then fell at the DRF has obviously given them some sort of concern. The fact that they've been umming and ahhing where to send her, for me, the fact that they're sending her to the mares is actually a bit of a confidence blow. You'd like them to still take their chance for me in the champion hurdle. It's their decision, but I'd be willing to take her on now. I'm not convinced that she's going to back up that run prior to the DRF. I think the fact that, like I said, they're coming here as an afterthought, that's a major concern for me, considering all season long she's been their champion hurdle horse. So
I don't think I don't think she's the bet now. You know, if you haven't got a bet on the race, it's not lost in that at 64 on.
7 odds aside.
And so I would back July Flat. I think she's at the 12s, which to me, it's a much better bet than backing Lossy. Yeah, each way, 12 to 1. That'd be my bet.
Yeah. John?
I'll be slightly worried about the fall. I think there's been a few rumours that she hasn't come out of there too well, and actually there's a few doubts that she'll even make the festival. But I think she'll probably doesn't.
So I've got a slightly different view on how the decision came about. I don't think there was anything to gain from either Jigginstown or from Rich Ritchie, the two horses meeting each other. Because the horse that finished behind, you know, it's only diminishing their value. And I think it's always been a case of who went first. Jigginstown, Gordon Elliott was bullishing coming out and saying, wanted to go. They also had the positive form in the book, clearly, absolutely trouncing statement. And I think by making the move and saying and committing early was the right thing to do for them. And I think it made it, for me, in my mind, almost inevitable then that Lossy Mouth was going to go for the Mayor's Hurdle. Because, you know, who gains being second? You know, if you take constitutionality, it's almost irrelevant, isn't it? You know, one of those mares is going to finish in front of the other one, and they're both seriously valuable. And I think actually when you make a cold, hard decision, you know, and somebody's already blinked, you know, it's who blinks first. And I think that's what happened with those horses. Do I think Lossy Mouth will win? I just think she wins, if I'm honest. I think she is a class apart. You know, if we're talking about a horse that all of us thought had some kind of chance in the champion hurdle, quite frankly, she pisses up. There's no other way of saying it. There's nobody within a stone of her. She picks us up unless there's something fundamental. Okay, so on to Champion Hurdle. So, nice little segue to brighter days ahead. Does she have any chance whatsoever against Constitution? Is anybody a backer?
I am, yes. I'm going to take on Con.
Booze in the room. There's booze in the room.
Look, I'd love nothing more than for Con to go in, take a second champion hurdle. A lot of people say he's the greatest we've ever seen. Well, longevity has to come into the conversation when we're talking about the greats. He's just not at this point in time. Yes, he probably is the best that we've ever seen. But based on what we saw at Kempton this year, and then what we saw as well at Cheltenham, he hasn't produced the numbers that he did in the Supreme and the champion hurdle. Now, he's another one that's going to have to go and Cheltenham and do it when he's on the very big stage. This is probably going to be his toughest test as well. The horses that he's been coming up against previously, Burden Road, even like I said, we're talking about Lossie now taking a U-turn to the Mare's Hurdle. She got within 2.5 lengths of him over Christmas at Kempton. She was ran off her feet early in the race. When push comes to shove and he's got to close down on brighter days ahead, I'd be worried about what's actually there in that engine. He looks really good in the flesh, but until we see, that gas let off at Cheltenham, we don't actually know if he's the same horse yet. That's just a fact. If he turns up in the same form as he did when he ran in the Supreme and the Champion Hurdle, then there's quite simply not a horse on the planet that can beat him. But I'm yet to see that on this year's evidence. Brighter days ahead, though. Look, she's an exceptional mare. I know the plan was to send her chasing. Her jumping just hasn't been up to scratch. Now, what I will say about Brighter days ahead, if she is going to beat Constitution Hill, she absolutely has to win every hurdle, and that's something she hasn't quite managed to do just yet. She's by a dam called Matney. Matney has produced about 5 or 6 horses, and they've all been pretty top class. Coldwell Potter, Mighty Potter, French Dynamite, yeah, really good horses. And I think this is the one that's the best of the bunch. I'd really like her to go in, stamp her authority. I think if she kicks the home first, Con isn't going to beat her by 2 or 3 lengths. If he gets there, he's going to get up on the line. And I'm happy to take on the big man here with the big man.
John? Which we know what you think already, so I'm skipping you this one.
Yeah, I think I'm willing to kind of write off Christmas a little bit. And I mean, that was...
That's what happened. Well, you've got 2 kids, how did you do that?
I mean, that was a demolition job, but I would rather, just in terms of rating where Brighter Days Ahead is right now, I think that the Morgiana, where she just about beat, obviously a great run, beat State Man. That's how close I think they probably are. I think State Man has progressed, but I would say that's much more like the difference between the pair than what you had at Christmas. I'm actually buzzing. I know take out Lossie Mouth. It's a bad knock for the race, but I'm buzzing for this. I think King of Kingsfield, we saw the Supreme when they went that fierce pace. Constitution Hill, loved it. I think the way the race pans out is going to suit him down to a ground till about 2 out. I think the crowd's going to go mad. You're going to have Jack kicking on a Brighter Days Ahead. I think Nico's going to be travelling like a dream. He's not going to be out of his comfort zone. And I think at that point, I think you're right, Jimmy. There's doubts there about what he will actually find. I can't be confident, given what's happened in the last year. If he's the best hurdler I've ever seen. I will still side with that. He's still unbeaten. I do think, again, Christmas. I don't think Brighter Days Ahead is as good as she looked then. But you do have doubts about Constitution Hill. But I'm just buzzing for this race.
Okay, for me, you said something, Joe, that I think is really important in this race. First, I'm going to say I think Constitution Hill is the best champion hurdler of my lifetime. I think he's that good, and that's the task that she faces. The argument is he the same horse that he was 2 years ago? We don't know because he hasn't had to show it. I think that's the real point. He hasn't had to show it so far. What he's done comfortably since he's been back. He's done it unextended on the bridle, but he's always done it so easily. But the key thing for me is he jumps so well, and she doesn't. When they're up sides, she's losing a length to him most hurdles, and he's going to come up sides. I suspect Nico's going to make a move early enough. He can't afford to let her get 10, 15 lengths ahead. So he's going to kick tabs, and we know he travels so well. Yes, I understand the doubts about time, but from what I've seen of him so far this season, he doesn't look to have regressed. He just hasn't had to put the numbers up. Apart from that last jump, God only knows what miscommunication is going on between him and Nico. I don't know, but it is unusual. We've seen his jumping is just spectacular. So there's a hand up in the audience. Come on, let's have something from the audience. Let's go.
So I see King of Kingsfield obviously in there. I'm assuming he's going to be the pace setter as he was when she battered Saban. Would you be worried about that with Conhill?
I think that probably suits him. I think the more pace on, the better for him, really. Because he just travels so easily. Nicky Henderson said so many times, there's not a single horse in that yard that can come close to getting him off the bridle. And actually, he's a really hard horse to get fit for that reason, because you do all the normal things you do with horses, but you have to do more with them because it's so easy for us. So getting him fit, there's that whole thing about that gallop, and everybody's saying, "Oh, he's gone." So Gino's the next Pegasus. He just wasn't fit. That's the problem. Getting him fit is the challenge. Once he's there, he's just a different horse altogether, and he just improves and improves and improves.
My slight argument with this angle is that Bright Days Ahead's going to lead him into the home turn. My question about Con's ability now lies what he finds off the bridle. We haven't, like Sepple, we haven't had to see this before. He is going to have to come off the bridle if he's going to pick up Bright Days Ahead coming around the home turn. So although everyone's saying it will suit Con Hill, I'm still concerned what's going to be under the bonnet when push comes to shove. If he can't find that turn of foot, then he's not going to be able to pass Bright Days Ahead. And he hasn't had to pass many horses before. So when he's eyeballed by this big mare, is he going to really have it when they turn the screws? I'm not so sure. We've seen a few horses, unfortunately, this year go by the wayside due to colic. I don't see a world where that hasn't had some sort of detrimental effect on his ability. Again, make no mistake about it. I would love to see him win this race. I am just really worried about what he's going to find when he is asked to come off the bridle, because he is going to have to in this race. If he kicks for home sooner than Bright Days Ahead on that home turn, he wins, but she's not going to allow that to happen. That's why King of Kingsfield's in the race. He has to find off the bridle this time, and we haven't seen that just yet. We haven't actually seen that very often from him at all, so that's just my slight concern. Again, I'd love him to win, but I'm happy to take him on at the price of the mare that could be exceptional herself.
The thing I really love about this is that we can have this conversation. These are the reasons we love racing, aren't they? That we get to see these kind of clashes. And for what it's worth, I actually think Lossie Map would have been a bit part anyway. I actually think they've made a good decision for what it's worth, because I can't see that she would have got close to either of them. But we're going to get, it may well be that one of them dots up by 10 lengths and it all feels like a bit of an anticlimax, but what we are going to see is just a true champion. Whoever wins this race, is without doubt. It's hard to say it's the highlight of the week because we've got Galloping going for a 3-time and some other really good racing going on. But this race is better than any race we had last year. 100% it is. To have this clash, and I'm genuinely excited for it. It's 2 days away now, and I can't wait.
That's the only thing as well, Paul. Sorry, I know you said we won't talk about Lottie now too much, but having her in the race would be a massive help to Brighter Days Ahead. The fact that Con's only got one horse effectively to beat does set it up a little bit more for him, and just trying to be realistic about his opportunities, because State Man's going to be wearing cheap pieces for the first time as well. That again suggests that he's not the force of old. We haven't seen him good enough anyway. But look, whatever happens, it's going to be an exceptional race. We are going to see these two fight out in the finish, whatever happens.
Yeah.
But has Con got it when they turn the screw? That's my quibble.
That's fair. Okay, so the Turners. Let's whiz through some of the shoulder graded races, shall we? So the Turners, look, Final Demand on New Line, probably. Has anybody got an alternative for those two?
Yeah, I'm with Yellow Clay here. He's the one for me.
Do you think he's going there, or the
I do. I think he'll go to the Turners. I think they'll leave Wingmen to the Bartlett. They're both effective stud. And he's the one that's had the full campaign. I think people are sort of sleeping on him a little bit. I know what Final Demand did at the DRF and the Nathaniel Lacey was exceptional, especially after only having one start over hurdle to go win like that. It was really good, but he's probably going to need a little bit of cut in the ground. Whereas if you look at the Yellow Clay, he's had the perfect campaign the whole way through. Won a maiden, He then won a Grade 3. He won a Grade 2. Then he won the Lawners of Nace going away at the finish. I think he's got speed. He's got stamina. He jumps well. I think he's being dangerously overlooked by the shorter in the market here for me.
Yeah, like, I think I like him as an Israel alternative. I think he'd absolutely walk the bar for what it's worth. I think he might have his hands full here. Rich?
I haven't got a strong view. I don't, unless you've got on at decent prices already. It's going to be a great race. You know, I think.
Forget prices if you one horse. Okay.
I haven't got a strong view. You know,
Okay.
it's the potential of Final Demand. You wouldn't back against Willie, would you? Basically.
Maybe. John?
Yeah, it's a tough call, this one. I think Final Demand and Yellow Clay, they were both massive partner players. Just one thing with the Ballymore, generally the top horses that have won this in the past, you've had Empire Pass, so Gerhard, Ballyburn, they could have won that year's Supreme. I think Final Demand and Yellow Clay would be lapped in this year's Supreme. It does bring me back round to the New Lion, but I couldn't be bullish either way.
And it's the New Lion for me, because you've got to have speed. You know, I think you can interchange horses between the Supreme and Gallagher's. I keep saying, Ballymore can't keep up with the sponsors. I spoke to Dan about the New Lion, and his view on him at the moment is clearly has to go and prove this to be correct, but he sees him as a champion hurdle horse next year. Now, if Dan's view is he thinks he's got a champion hurdle horse in his hands, and he already knows he stays that 2.5, I think it's going to be really hard to beat. I really do. You know, we've seen some impressive performance. I don't disagree with the Yellow Clay for what it's worth. I do like that horse. He's one of those horses I think is going to make a fantastic chaser as well. So I think he'll improve again next year. I think he has to be there or thereabouts. Final Demand, I'm probably in the camp that he looks more like a stayer, if I'm honest. Willie is sure to run 2 or 3 to make sure there's a real pace on him in that race. And that's his best chance to turn, the race into a proper stay and test, which it rarely is. So I think we're going to get a fast run race this year, rather than it be a bit of a jog round for the first 3/4 of a mile to a mile. And that can make, the New Lions this world a little bit more vulnerable. But it just gives it so easy. He's got a high cruising speed, and, you can just sit there, and I know the doubt will be, is there something left we can look at the driver?
Well, what I was going to say actually is I've seen a lot of previews with Dan Skelton talking about his fancied runners. It is interesting that he thinks his best chance of a winner is Be Aware rather than the New Lion, who's fighting out for favouritism in a Grade 1. That just would be a slight concern for me, especially when Be Aware doesn't necessarily jump too well. Yet the New Lion seems to do everything like Sepple so easily, and he's got speed. Yet he is opting to side with Be Aware, perhaps, as his best bet at the festival, perhaps.
I would say that says more about Be Aware than the New Lion. So we'll come on to that shortly. We'll come on to Be Aware as a separate conversation.
Just one thing more on the New Lion. Are you worried that if you look at the Supreme, look at the Albert Bartlett, there's barely a British runner that's at the head of the market. Obviously, the New Lions he just travelled like a dream and put his races to bed. But what is the British division this year?
I think this comes more down to, it's a different conversation for me. This is just the buying power of certain yards. But the one thing that Dan is doing now is getting his fingers into some of those same pies. He's an outstanding trainer. He's every bit as good as any of those top trainers. But you're only as good as the ammunition you have. Willie gets he's got Hauke, Boulard, etc., getting all the best horses out of France. He will pick and choose which of the pointers that he really wants. Let Gordon go and pay 300, 400, 500,000 for everything else. Generally, if it's good enough, he's already bought it before it's gone to the sales ring. He'll buy the odd few that way. But Dan is now starting to, expand those contacts. He knows if he's going to compete. We already know he's the default British champion trainer last year. I know Willie came and swept that away from him, and I know how much that hurt, which is why you saw him get off to such a fast start this season. But, he knows he has to buy better. To your point, John, You know, the horse doesn't know who he was bought by, but he's with the right trainer. And, you know, would you say, if the new line was with Willie Mullins, and it happened to be Willie Mullins that bought him, would you be a layer or a player?
It's not about who bought him or who owns it. It's basically the form of the British form is kind of going to be non-existent this festival. That's essentially everything. If you look at the 2 mile form, the 3 mile form, it's all the Irish form stands out heavily. So my view is just, yeah, the new lion. Do you take his form? Potter's Charm is probably the only other British runner that has a chance in the kind of 3 grade rower. So out of the bar that anyone can win, but certainly Supreme and Ballymore. Yeah, I think it's stacked with the Irish. Doesn't mean New Line can't win, but I think you have to just have question marks about the form as good as it's.
The New Lion did beat the mighty Wendigo, though, didn't he, John? Didn't he, Sam? You know?
Just for everybody at home, we've got some of the owners of Wendigo in the room. We'll talk about him when we get to the Barlett. Okay, so Ballyburn, Rich, layer or player?
I think he probably wins, but again, he's not a bet now. The bet now is Lecky Watson, who I think has been underestimated most of the season. He finished just behind Dancing City in the Bartlett last year. I think he was 5th. Dancing City was 3rd. He came in the top 4 or 5 in the bumper the year before. He's a beast, and he's tailor-made for this race. If it turns into a slog, if they've watered it and it's pretty near soft and good, Lecky will go from the front, and he's going to take some passing. And at 14 to 1, you know, if you hadn't the bet in the race, I'd much rather do Lecky Watson each way at 14s than go for Ballyburn at whatever he is, 6 or 4. And I think Lecky will finish ahead of Dancing City. He's second favourite.
I think you have to back him today before the final days because you want 3 places for him.
Yeah.
Tomorrow he's not that at all, in my opinion.
He's underestimated. It'd be interesting to see who rides him. Brian Hayes rode him last year. It'd be lovely if Danny was on him this year, but we'll see.
Judd? Again?
Look, Ballyburn's engine, this is another where his engine probably surpasses anything else in the field. He hasn't necessarily been ideally campaigned, though. Willie Mullins doesn't often like to send his horses straight up to 3 miles after being a novice. This is why Magic was over 2 miles now, and he will step up and trip next year. The fact he got beat over 2 miles, he was much better over 2.5. He's got to step up again. Now, he's got tactical speed, so if he jumps the last in line with any of his rivals, I can see him pulling away at the head. Like the amount of distance he put between himself and Croke Park the last day when they jumped the last level was just astonishing. But can he do it over 3 miles? Possibly. Jumping slow around Cheltenham is not going to help him at all, though. I would be very much on side with Better Days Ahead. I think this is a horse that could come into the Boyle all season long. He showed little bits and pieces of bumper horse. He progressed through his hurdles career as well, and then he thrived when he got to the Cheltenham Hill. I think he's going to have a really good pace to run up when he gets to Cheltenham. A lot of people are saying, well, he sort of idled the last day. I think he just got a little bit lonely in front. We will not see the best of Better Days Ahead until he gets to Cheltenham next week, and I think this is the future Gold Cup horse in the field. I respect Lecky Watson. I don't know if he's more of a 2.5 miler, perhaps.
Well, he ran in the Bartlett and wasn't beaten that far. I'll say he was 4th. He's half a length behind Dancing City, and he ran in the bumper the year before and came. He was either 4th in the bumper and 5th in the Bartlett, or the other way around. Sure. So I think he's a 3 miler. He's a stayer.
I would agree with you with Dancing City, though. I couldn't see him winning over 3 miles. He hasn't got any tactical speed. He goes from the front, he does his business. If the National Hunt Chase was the same race that it was last year, he would be a God-given certainty for the race. But over 3 miles, I'm not necessarily sure Dancing City will be quick enough. Don't know what you think, John, but
I think Ballyburn is probably the bet of all the short price horses. I think he's the bet of the meeting. I think any odds against, you take it. He's by far the best hurdler. I do think he hasn't actually progressed that much in terms of for a fence. I wouldn't necessarily follow him when he goes to open company, but I think this is not going to be a slog. It's mostly Mullins runners. They're going to dictate the race. He's got stamina in Ballock. I have no issue on his trip. The ground's come right for him. You look at the Dublin Racing Festival, he pulled away. I think Croke Park just got in front of him at the last. Ballyburn, Paul got 5 or 6 lengths clear. Paul couldn't put him up. I think he's an absolute stonking bet.
Yeah, and I'm with John. I absolutely love him for this race. The one nagging doubt is just, he's a bit slow away from his fences. But they've worked hard on that jump, and it was better last time without a shadow of a doubt. There will be better jumpers in that field than him, but they are at basic level. He's a stone ahead of them. That's a lot. It's not just a few pounds. A stone ahead of them is an awful lot. You look at what they did over hurdles. He is a long way clear. And I know fences are a leveler and turns everything around. But I think the big thing for me here is, and John, you just mentioned it, I think the ground is the key to him. I think he won despite the ground at the festival last year. He's a Flemingsfirth, and Flemingsfirth on the trip, and I want the ground. It's the first time he's going to get, in my opinion, his optimum conditions. He was messing around at shorter trips last year because they could, because there was sufficient pace in there for them to get away with it in a season where the novice hurdlers were really poor. But he's coming up against last season's novice hurdlers. Let's be honest. We just said not long ago we were slating the novice hurdlers saying they were a really bad bunch, things miles ahead of them. Is his jumping that much of an? Is it going to hurt him that much? That he's a stone or more worse off? I just don't think so. I think he just absolutely rocks up.
I think it might come to that when you're jumping up, you're jumping down, you come down the back straight, you get to sort of like that second last as well. I'm not sure his jumping is going to hold up well enough. But like you said, he definitely has that tactical speed. For anyone that likes to play on the exchanges, he could be one to back in running. If he's travelling well and jumping fairly well and not too far away, coming over the second last, you could probably have your spuds on him, to be honest. But I do think better days ahead is he's coming to the board at the right time. And I'm on at bigger prices, but I put my neck on the line from all season. I think he's going to absolutely thrive. He's going to have a pace to run out of Cheltenham like he did in the pipe last year. I couldn't go back at Ballyburn with that sort of jumping around Cheltenham. Different ball game. He struggled at Kempton, flat track. He struggled at DRF, pretty flat track again. Cheltenham's going to be a world apart from that Ballymore that he ran in last year, in my opinion.
Okay, so Spectre Racing the day champion Chase. It's just impossible to pose jump on, isn't it? I know that people talk about the doubts of the course. I've heard people say, he improves for Nico, really. And I know that's really harsh on Aidan Coleman, who, I actually really like, but Nico does the work on him, has done the work on him, for however long, knows the horse really well, and he just seems to be a stone better horse than Nico's on his back for me. I'm not particularly concerned about the course. I think, he's going to have a pace to aim at with Solness. He can't give him too much rope. I agree with that. But I think having that pace on really suits him. He stays. He stays. That's probably actually the doubt about Solness going off at that pace. Marine National closing him down at the Dublin Racing Festival. He was properly tied up. Does Solness want that couple of rounds? I'm not entirely sure either. Marine National for me is probably the danger. I'd love, for sentimental reasons, to see Marine National win. For all the obvious reasons, I think, we all know what happened with Mikey. Absolute bloody tragedy, quite frankly. For real racing fans, I know how much that affected me. For somebody I've never met, God only knows what his family are going through. I just love to see Marine National win that, but I can't see past John Bond. Anybody got a different opinion?
Yeah, John Bond, best price, 11 to 10 on, as we speak. I wouldn't take that.
Would you put it in multiple?
No, I wouldn't. He's gone mistaken. He's not as good around Cheltenham as he is on other courses. Remember that blunder with James Bowen? Yeah, at the top of the hill. He's a great horse. He's been in the form of his life this season. So everything points to him. But 11 to 10 on? No, thank you. For me, you've got two choices. Well, three. I mean, it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that Marine National does it. He looked a great winner of the Supreme, wasn't it? And he seems to be coming back this season after having a few problems. So he's not without a chance. Solness has been having a fantastic season, and he's going to make it a very difficult race for everybody, I think. So 8 to 1, I'd rather back Solness each way, perhaps, or the one that's nobody's spoken about really is Founder 50. He was second in the Arkle last year. You get him at 20s. Much, if you haven't got a bet already, if you're not on John Bonnet, a decent price, and I don't call 11 to 10 on decent. then I'd much prefer to back Founder 50 at 20s each way and hope he sneaks in second or third.
Could somebody in the room who's got a phone just have a quick check with Paddy Power to see what price Founder 50 is in the without jump on market? We'll come back to that.
He beat Pinkerton as well, giving him a stone, and Pinkerton went on to win the Galway Plate. It's big form, to be honest, in price comparison. This is crunch time for John Mon, isn't it? Now he gets a lot of stick for not winning at the Cheltenham Festival, because he's only been beaten by El Fabiolo, Constitution Hill, and Elixir de Nuts when he made that big blunder of an error. But people are also telling you that he's an underrated horse. I mean, he's got an official rating of 170, so there's no way that he's underrated. He might be underappreciated though, and it'd be nice to see him go and win his race. But look, Solness has had an easy lead the last twice, and that's not going to happen again. If Solness goes off in front, Nico will happily go and sit behind him with John Bon, because he can match that pace, no worry. So you hear anyone telling you that Solness is going to go off in front again, it's just not going to happen. They won't let that happen tactically. Now, this is probably my biased opinion of the whole week, and that is Marine Nationale. Anyone who knows me or follows my content will know that I'm very close to Barry and, unfortunately, Mikey. But this is a horse that's given me a lot of opportunities with racing. This is where it all started with my connection with Marine. This year, he has improved run for run for run. The faster ground's going to suit really nicely. He's had 5 chase starts in comparison to Solness's 17, and he's another sort of similar to Better Days Ahead. He just starts to come to the boil at the right time. No excuses as well for a poor performance here. He handles the course as the course and distance winner. The grounds come in his favour too, and he is by far the fastest in this race. He's by a horse of French Navy. He's inherited all of that speed from him as well. Now, I know he didn't get past Solness the last day of the DRF, but I don't think if Sean Flanagan knew that he wasn't going to be able to catch him back at that hill, he wouldn't have given Solness that much rope. So, look, John Bon is the most likely winner, and this is his time to become one of the greatest horses, you know, with that sort of rating at 170, but something is niggling me, like it is a lot of people, and if Marine Nationale isn't too far away coming at that straight, he's got the sprint speed to pick all of these off, no question about it.
I actually think the old course suits him down to the ground. That sharper old course, on the turn all the time. It's almost that flat breeding, isn't it? Just a more nimble horse around there, takes less out of himself. He's got something left. He's got that speed.
That's the key point, Paul. It's all about speed. The old course. If this was on the new course, it'd be a different ball game, and John Bon would win by 5-10 lengths. But at a speed course, everything is set up for Marine Nationale to put his best foot forward on the biggest stage this week. And like you just said, quickly, just regarding the sentimental value for the Mikey, when he won on Marine in the Supreme, he also won on the same day with Jazzy Matty. Jazzy Matty runs in the race after the Queen Mother as well, so it could be a hell of a sentimental double for anyone who wants to get involved.
Just on that point, for anybody that watched this year's Naiad, apologies for anybody that has no idea what the Naiad is, because we'll spend 10 minutes explaining it, and we're not going to do that today. But when I did this year's Naiad, what I asked everybody to do that was watching was to do that double. So the Marine Nationale, you never watched it?
No, but I did hear about it.
Well, you're not getting invited next year, Jesus. So what we did as part of that was 2 choices: either do Marine Nationale each way, or in the without market with John Bon, whichever you think of him, and Jazzy Matty in the Clondaniel as a double. And for those people that didn't see the Naiad at home, or those people in the room, what I asked was, and I'm going to ask the same thing now, that you have a bet of some kind on that double, whatever is an affordable bet, 5 each way, 10 each way, 100 each way, whatever you bet in. And post festival, if that bet comes in, I'm going to set up a Just Giving page for you to donate, and that's going to go to Michael's family to use however they see fit. If they've got costs that they wouldn't have expected, or they may want to do something as a memorial. So I've just asked you to do that, if that's okay. Today's free for everybody. Everybody's given their time for today. Just if you could give that back. If that double doesn't come in, or feel free to make a donation anyway. I will make a donation personally, whatever. So there'll be some money going to the family. So
I'll join you with that as well, Paul. And like you said, you could even add William money in the Mikey Sullivan Supreme, couldn't you, as well, to make it all tricky.
Okay, John.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think part of the reason why people are a bit wary is actually the record of Queen Mother horses. I think if you almost took this race in isolation and what John Bond's done, I think you get more positive views from it. We've been kind of harshly treated with favourites, odds on favourites and the Queen Mother. I think John Bond is if you had to pick one race for him as standout, you pick that track. But he's done well at Cheltenham. He doesn't not act around Cheltenham. I think anyone that says that, I just think that's a mad statement. I can't have Solness. I actually think Fab 50 is a great shout. I think he's the forgotten one because he didn't run it since the Christmas.
First
blood vessel. Hasn't run since, and I think that works in his favour. But I do actually think, obviously, Energamine is an 11-year-old. Everyone can say the ground's gone completely for him. But I do think that Ascot Clarence House Chase is probably the best piece of form, open 2.5 form this season. Yes, he's 11. Yes, the ground's not ideal. If I had to have a bet, I'd probably go into Energamine. But yeah, John Bond, the race probably, if he doesn't win, it's kind of, you feel like it's fallen into his lap. So, yes, tough one to wear out.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. So I think we spent a bit more time on the graded race than we intended to, but there's plenty to talk about. So back in the room in 5 minutes. For everybody at home, we're just going to just put it on mute for 5 minutes. So go and get a drink, go to the toilet, get something to eat, and we'll be back shortly.
We're ready.
Okay, we're back live. I know there'll be one or two people filtering back into the room, but we'll press on because I don't want to keep people sitting around at home. Okay, so we're on day 3 of the Ryanair, which is looking like a very competitive race, I have to say. What have we got? We've got, actually, it's the Mares. What is the Ryanair Mares? I'm confusing something in my notes. So, but yeah, no less competitive, I guess, with Maureen and 6.5, and a few others sort of backing that up. Nicole's got a couple of interesting ones in there as well. Anybody got a strong opinion about anything in that? Rich, have you got one or two?
Sorry,
you got one or two.
Yeah, it looks to me like it's looked all along like a race between those two horses. But I just remember, Maureen is they've obviously had problems getting her to the track. She's only run twice. And 6.5, I'm not sure about. I backed them. They're the only two I backed in the race. I've done them doubles with Be Aware in the coral. But I just wouldn't be surprised if something causes a bit of a shock here. I don't know what it is that's the problem. But if I had to choose between one or the other, I think I'd go for 6.5.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of 6.5. Again, this is one I sort of got right for the time being. I'm on the better side of the price. She started off her sort of career by winning a bumper. She beat a horse called Cole Cannon by 14 lengths. Cole Cannon's a gelding, and he ended up going on to win the bumper at the DRF. So that forward straight away stacks up nicely. But what I like about her, following that bumper run, she then had a campaign on the flat. She went over 1 mile 4. She then went over 1 mile 6. And then she finished 3rd in the Irish Cesarewitch, just behind the Euphrates. She had a ton of good horses in behind her that day. And then she seemingly took to hurdles quite well as well. What I like about her hurdles performance in particular is she showed all of the right attributes that you'd want in a hurdler. She travelled well, she jumped well, and then when she was asked to go and win her race, it was only a squeeze of the sidings, and then she just took off. She was a really impressive winner that day. Maureen is clearly very fragile. We should have seen her plenty more if she wasn't. I know the vibes are actually a little bit weak about her. I think she'd be a little bit short in the betting. Probably will be on the day when the Woody Mullins fans sort of start getting involved, but I think 6.5 is the standout here. I would give a small mention to Hollygrove Chat Chat for Jamie Snowden. She won the Jane Seymour in pretty good style. She's one that's just improving run for run, but I think they're all going to have a big ask to try and beat 6.5. She looks pretty much a class apart at this stage to me.
Yeah, I think the prices are about right now. Obviously, Maureen has been favoured for most of the winter. That's kind of flip-flop now. Paul, we know, one of the owners, so I'd love to see her win it. To be honest, it's a race that, if you look back, you had the likes of Epperton, Dino Blue, a few other really, probably the best mares in the race just don't win. It's not a race I have a massive strong opinion about, so I'll kind of head on to the next race, I think.
Okay, look, I think 6.5 on everything we've seen from her looks like a real class act, but it also feels like a fairly deep mare's novice, actually. You can look sort of 7, 8, 9 horses down, and you're seeing lots of quality in the race. John mentioned we know Steve Crowley, who is one of the part owners of Maureen in the syndicate. And I think Steve will probably start to become more confident if Paul Townend's jocked up. I'd be surprised if he wasn't really, but I don't, typical Willie, he's not committed yet. But there's a horse, there's 2 Nichols horses. Jiggly Alpha's the one that's the shorter of the 2, but I actually like the other one, Just a Rose of his. I'd have her as an each way bet. I do like 6.5, just make that point. Just a Rose beat a horse called Country Mile in point to point. That's a horse that Darren's actually a horse that he actually offered to me at the time and said no. But anyway, he's a class act, that horse. He's been saved for Aintree. I know we're talking about Cheltenham. He's definitely one to look out for when you get to Aintree. But that's no mean feat for her to beat a horse like that, because he is a really, really nice horse. And I know how much they thought of him when he arrived at the yard and how well he was working. So she's smart. She's really smart. The only doubt, I guess, we've not seen the decks yet, whether Nichols declares 2 of them. He may save one of them for entry, I guess.
It is the plan to run them both.
It is,
It is,
okay.
yeah. Cobden said he's going to ride Jubilee Alpha, though. I don't know if that's an indication.
Could be.
But the plan with Just the Rose was to run her in the Jane Seymour, which Hollygrove Cha-Cha will.
Yes.
But yeah, the plan is to run them both.
But ultimately, I do like 6.5. I think she has just shown something a little bit special. So anyway, moving on. Where are we? Down here. We are moving on. Oh, now it's the proper Ryanair, Jason. So it is looking competitive. You know, of all the Grade 1s, this is looking the most competitive to me. Factor Files coming here, didn't get the declaration for the Gold Cup. I'm not sure I entirely agree with that, but you know, Willie Mullins and JP know far more than I ever will. I think they've got the tactics completely wrong on that, and I think if they had tried to, if Mark Walsh had ridden in the Gold Cup and taken on the favourite in galloping at the front, I don't think Paul Townend would have engaged, and I think they could have run their own race and dictated the pace. And I think he'd have had a good chance of getting home. It's a really poor Gold Cup after galloping, let's be honest. And I think, you know, for me, if it was mine, I would have wanted to take the chance, but he's got an outstanding chance in the Ryanair, hasn't he?
I don't think he'll beat Ile Francais. I think Ile Francais wins. I don't think protect it.
Would you worry about Ile Francais going left-handed?
No, I just think
Or
he's
bleeding?
a superstar. He's a superstar.
Or
It's a
travelling?
real shame that he didn't run at Cheltenham last year. But I think 2.5 miles round Cheltenham is his optimum trip. And I think he's going to take a hell of another catching. I think it's a better race than the one Protectorate won last year. So, place prospects would be the most I could give for him. And I just think Ile Francais beats Factor Fire. And then I just think Factor Fire won the Brown Advisory last year, but I wasn't knocked out by him. But I think Ile Francais, things haven't exactly gone to plan, but I think he's a potential superstar.
Interesting, Joe.
Yeah, I am a bit of a fence sitter when it comes to Ile Francais. I'm not as convinced as others that he's going to handle Cheltenham. I know O'Toy can be fairly undulating, but Cheltenham's a completely different ball game. I do agree, though, Richard, that if he goes off the front, he's going to be really hard to catch. But I've got a little bit of a flyer in this race. I think I can make a pretty good case for him too. And he is the horse that would have to break all of the trends to go and win this race too, and it's Jungle Boogie for Henry for Bromhead. Now, he's an 11-year-old. 11-year-olds don't win the race. You barely see 10-year-olds win the race as well. But he's only had 5 starts to date over fences, and he's won 3 of those. Last time out at Ascot, he beat Phil Dorr, James de Burley, and Aroko. He gave weight away going right-handed. He jumped markedly out to his left the whole way round and lost ground at every fence, but still just seems to hose up on the bridle. Also, if you go back and watch the Gold Cup last year, he was travelling better than Galopan, all of the other horses coming to 2-3 out. So that was even further than the Ryanair trip, and he was still sat on the bridle. I think he's coming in here fresh. He's been dangerously overlooked. Going back left-handed is only going to suit his credentials. He jumps well, he travels well. He clearly acts well around Cheltenham. He's one that's been laid out for this race. Rather than take your chance on a 50-50 split between Factor File and Ile Francais, I think you could absolutely have a go here each way at Jungle Boogie.
See, I'd be really against Jungle Boogie, actually. I've heard a few people make that case. There's 2 issues I have with that case. The first one is the argument is that a lightly raced 11-year-old doesn't mean he's not going to train for a long time. They still feel that wear and tear. There's more wear and tear training every day than there is in the race themselves. But he is relatively exposed, and I do get the argument. Well, he's done this before, with horses that he's put in the Gold Cup. Brom was the last one, wasn't it? It was travelling the best to the same point. Last year or the year before, no, the year before last.
Jungle Boogie's with Henry Bromhead now, though. He's not with Mr. Mullins anymore.
Good point, but they either stay or they don't. That's the point.
He stays though, doesn't he? He was travelling 2 out of the Gold Cup better than Galopan.
I just think this is a really, really hot race for him.
Grab a beer on this one.
John, I'm saying you don't feel as though you're alone.
I think I agree with Rich about Spectre Racing. I think on paper he's got a fantastic chance, but I think it's a much better race this year. I think he'll probably place. I do see it between the front three of the market. I wouldn't have Gaelic Warrior, couldn't give him a chance. It might sound boring, but I think Factifar wins. Just a quick piece. The last 14 Grade 1 runners are 6-4 shorter for Willie Mullins, 12-1. The two that didn't win, one was Fabiolo, 1-4 on Queen Mother, and the other one was Galloping Shops. Obviously, fell at the turners at his mercy. So we'll go into the big prices and the handicaps. You don't get the prices, but when Willie Mullins lately, when he's got a short price favourite, he just wins more often than not. I think in France, I think he did look like a superstar, but the last year, yeah, he's bled. I think there's doubts about going left-handed. I just think he will probably set the race up in Factifar in my view.
Like he's at Banbridge. But I think this is between Factifar and Protector Act. I would be strongly against it. I can't say if I'm really honest, Rich. But there's just too many can't, of course it isn't. But there are too many doubts about him for me. Factifar, when he ran at Punchestown, I thought he ran really well. And you can't argue the fact that his best run this season has been over 2.5 miles. And often Punchestown form translates to Cheltenham better than Leicester form does. So I know it's the other way around, but often that translates better because of the topography of the course. But I still think Protector Act is going to be hard to beat. I think if you look at Protector Act and think of him in the same way as they're currently thinking of Factifar, he was a horse that didn't quite get home over the Gold Cup trip. He was, I think, one of Dan's biggest disappointments. Actually, I think he genuinely thought he had a Gold Cup winning horse on his hands. He generally wants better ground. He won the Ryanair last year on softer ground that would have been ideal. So I see why he improves for better ground this year. I think the race will suit him. It's probably going to be run similarly, I think, so he's going to be able to come off the pace in a similar way at a similar time. And I think Factifar is going to be coming off that pace at exactly the same time. I think it's going to be those two battling up the hill while front side's backpedaling. That's how I see the race.
And a big point to make there as well is Envoy and M couldn't get past Protector Act, could he, when they came up the straight? He was boiled up to the 9s for that run. So he's got the right running style for the race, hasn't he? Protector Act. He's probably been dangerously overlooked in the market.
That course and distance, we get it in. We're going to talk about the plate later. That course and distance, it really is a specialist course and distance because they go so hard. You've got to have something left. You've got to be a stayer to win a Ryanair. Why is it we see these same horses win time and time and time again in these 2.5 mile handicaps? They keep doing it despite going up the handicaps. It's the same principle. It really is a very specialist race, and we're yet to see that from Factifar. I know he won last year as a novice, but he won on the old course rather than the new course. So, and it is very different. Again, it's that thing about being on the turn all the time on the old course, whereas it's a real galloping track. And I just think it suits Protector Act down to the ground. I think if push comes to shove up that hill, he's the one that still stay on hard over the line.
Just on that, I think Factifar does win, but I think if it does play out like you think, Paul, then I think Factifar probably has the race won by the last fence if he goes on to win the race. I think if you've got those two vying kind of up the hill, I just have my doubts. I think Factifar is very, very good, but I don't think he's a real battler. So I think he might be susceptible then.
Okay, for the stayers, guys. Do we think it's Tehupo, or are we going to have a complete shock in this race?
Well, I think T. Hooper is vulnerable. Gordon is adamant that he's better than ever this season. I dispute that. And with the ground going to ride good soft, that makes him vulnerable. The deeper the better for T. Hooper. But so the question then is who beats him? And that's the problem. It's not an obvious one. I think there's certainly one horse that's got a chance. Bob Ollinger, who's won twice at the festival on good soft ground. He won on New Year's Day, I think it was last year, in very deep ground over 2 miles 5. So the idea that he won't get 3 miles, I just don't buy that. He hasn't been tried often enough when he's been in form. He's 10 now, which is probably a year too old, but he's a class horse, and I think from his recent runs, he's not really deteriorated, or he's not showing it big time anyway. The other one, and he's still available at 25 to 1. So again, if it comes to a bet, would you rather have two, at whatever he is, he's very tight still, at 6 to 4, whatever he is, or an each way bet on Bob? I'd go for Bob. I'd love to see it do it on the sentimental side, but I'm not saying that as a sentimental bet. I think he's got a genuine chance. And the other one, I don't know whether he's going to turn up in the race, but I think if he does, he could be a big surprise, is Franciscan Rock, 66 to 1. He'll like the ground. He's been having a great season. If Mounts is going to send him to the Pertemps, he's played a pretty poor hand in advance.
I think that's unlikely. I think they'll go now. Have to.
Yeah, well, I hope they do, and I think he could have a squeak. So it's certainly getting in the frame anyway.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I quite like the show there of Bob Ollinger. A lot of people are talking about how Langer Dan's just suddenly going to come to life at Cheltenham. Well, Bob Ollinger was right there with him, wasn't he, at Aintree? I know what they're doing with Bob Ollinger this season as well. The plan is to run in here in the Stayers, and then they're going to try and have a final swan song with him in the American National. So look, they're going to leave no stone unturned for him this year. Look, I think Tia Hoopoe's going to be really hard to beat. I think his defeat in the Hatton's Grace has brought question marks to people. I think we've seen the talent that Tia Hoopoe has already. We may be overcomplicating things a little bit with him. The one that I'm starting to warm to, though, is the Wall Park. He was really impressive to me with that Cheltenham form.
Well, I think that's interesting that he's had the entry that they've confirmed, because same yard. You know, JP isn't one for tilting windmills, is he? Apart from with Crabbilly, of course. Get that one out there. You know, they obviously think he's got a chance.
Yeah, they wouldn't run it here without it. And I like the fact he's coming here as well, Paul, because it's brought my Pertemps flyer into the bottom of the weights as well, so it's very handy. But look, he got beat at Ascot fair and square, but I love the way that he ate up the ground late there. The fact that then going left-handed at Cheltenham when he won the Pertemps, he just flew up the hill. He is your ideal candidate for his Stayers. I can see why they're going to come this way rather than running in the Pertemps. And if they thought he was good enough to win the Pertemps off 11 stone 12 off his current mark, there's no reason why they shouldn't take that chance. I think he's going to be the one that's going to be playing that card late. He's the each way bet in the race for me. I can't see him out of the first three. I really can't.
I think this race really comes down to how it's run. You know, often these Stayers are runners, you know, jog around for a mile and a half and end up being a bit of a sprint. You know, the exception more recently was when Sada Burley won, when there was a complete pace collapse.
They're all veterans, though, weren't they? They were all 10, 11-year-olds at the time as well.
But that was a fierce gallop, and you know he benefited from it.
Yeah, he jumps well as well. He seems to warm to his races. He finds. I don't see how he's going to be outside the first three to Wall Park. I'm really starting to warm to him. People say because he got beat at Ascot, he's got no chance at Cheltenham. It's just not the way to read the race. Going left-handed at Cheltenham with all the undulations, he was mustard coming up that hill. You don't see many Stayers fly up that hill like he did. He's a really good way better.
I actually don't think he needs to be a Stayer to win a Stayers most years.
You need to have that speed as well, don't you? Especially with the ground that's coming this week too. Tia Hoopoe may not be built for speed. That may be the slight vulnerability that he's got this year. The Wall Park is the one that's going to fly up that hill. Whatever happens, he's going to be in that first three. I'd rather side with him at the moment and take a short price on Tia Hoopoe.
John?
I think with Hoopoe, I don't think he was disgraced from his second to Lossiemouth. Lossiemouth was the best. Right, obviously, Hoopoe's, that was his third time at Hatton's Grace, wasn't he? He beat Classical Dream, he beat Imperial Pass. Lossiemouth was a different level, so I don't see how you could really knock that performance. I probably would take a chance, though. Obviously, you've seen the race, big prices. I wouldn't be going siding with Hoopoe just for the prices. It's a race that's throwing out big price winners. I do touched upon kind of horses that have the speed, horses that necessarily haven't been out and out Stayers. I think Lucky Place, fourth in the Coral Cup last year. won on New Year's Day, beating the clean hurdle winner. I'm not saying that's great form at all, but in terms of course form, also second place, only 6 years old. Yeah, I think he will stay, but he's got that mix of speed as well that you need.
So the interesting thing, I've seen or heard a lot of people sort of shout at Lucky Place. But surely you've got to like Langadam, haven't you?
I was just going to say that to you. It's like correlation.
He just rocked all over him in the corridor. Why would you take Lucky Place out of Langadam?
Ulcers, Paul, ulcers.
And spring doesn't start till the 1st of April, Paul. Just
the spring's late this year. Look, it does have the feel of a race that could be a boilover, definitely. I certainly agree with that. And I think of all the favourites, Tihupu seems to be the one that people are most wanting to take on. I think, actually, just out of interest, a show of hands, how many in the room are actually expecting Tihupu to win? About 25%, yeah, which is low for a short price favourite, although we've been in that place with most of the votes in the room. So I'm also in the camp where I think we could have a bit of a boil over. I don't see the case for Home by the Lee at all. You know, third time lucky, really? I'm not sure. I think he's fallen too far short in some fairly average renewals. The one that interests me, it wouldn't be a trend source for Jono, because he won a horse that's won over the trip before. But the one that really interests me, actually, and again, at a big price, I backed him quite a while ago at 60-61, is Nemean Lion. I just think he wants this. I think it's the kind of race that really will suit him now. You know, he's shown that he stays over 2.5, no bother at all. And they can be, some of those big handicaps can be, getting home, the same as we were talking about Coral Cup last year. You know, he kind of fits that bill for me. When you look at Lucky Place and you look at Langadam, we're talking about horses that are taking, with Langadam, an older horse taking a step into a handicap. Lucky Place, a horse that has to improve past Langadam. I think the main line is just a better horse.
I agree. He should have run in this race last year, and they put him in the champion hurdle instead. Trouble is, Kerry Lee, the trainer, she was quoted recently saying she doesn't believe he stays 3 miles. I think she's got it wrong. But and so, are they going to run him? Or will they wait for Liverpool? I think they should run him. I agree. I think he's got a very good each-way chance if he goes. Yeah.
Okay, so stayers, you know, a bit of a mixed bag from all of us, but I think, you know, the one thing we are in agreement with, if it isn't horses, is that, you know, there's potentially going to be one of the few races this festival we might get a big price winner, which is also unusual for graded races these days. Okay, so we're on to Friday, and the Triumph Hurdle, which is it a 2-horse race, Rich?
No, I don't think it's a 2-horse race. Presumably you meant, I think you've got to include Hello Neighbour in the equation as well. But it's a battle between potential Yolanda, who looks very, very good, and much more proven form and proven course form in East India Dock. And as I say, you've got to throw in Hello Neighbour into the mix. It's difficult to pick a winner. You know, I don't know. You just take you throw the dice and I'm on. I haven't got.
You'll be in the bar.
I haven't got a beam on East India Dock. I'm on the other two.
You'll be searching out the Aspels.
Yeah, I suppose really maybe you know, East India Dock has posted the scores, isn't it? So.
Yeah, but he's
got it.
He's the one for me.
Yeah.
I think that's a big rating he put up at Cheltenham. Yeah, we had a freak year last year. I think people are trying to make measurements against Sergio and Majma from last year. Just don't do that, because the chances of that happening 2 years running are so remote. Can't say it's impossible. But you know, that rating he put up at December meter? Was it January? January. Somebody tell me. December. Was as good as you'll see, you know, pre-festival. That's going to take some beating for any horse, in my opinion. You know, they clearly like the Lambert. They bought him out of France, and you know, they're really talking him up. And you know, let's face it, Henson knows the time of day with these horses, and he's got the right horses to compare him against. You know, to get another one, you know, that I think it's probably high 140s juvenile at this stage. To have two of them 2 years running, that's freak stuff. And he hasn't proven that yet. He's probably proven to be about a 140 horse with 170 on the race course. Then we throw in Palladium, for example. German Derby winner. Didn't jump particularly well first time, but it's a long way home with not much jumping to do. It suits a horse like that. And Henson's the master of these flat horses, ex-flat horses in Triumph hurdles, where there's a bit of a theory I've held for a long time. The ex-flat horses are generally better suited to the new course, whereas actually the national hunt type bred juveniles are better suited for the Fred Winter earlier in the week. But anything else to oppose with?
Yeah, I mean, I'm massively against East India Dock. I am. I think if this was run for speed on the old course, he'd be a shoo-in. But on a stayers course on the new, I'm not totally sure that he's going to be as well suited to what we've seen previously. Lou Lambert, I'm in a similar boat on the basis that he is open to significant potential. He jumps like a chaser. He's not very low at his hurdles. And the fact now that he hasn't actually put in an exceptional performance yet, he's going to have to go to Cheltenham as a juvenile and go on the biggest stage. That would just give me a big worry. I think Hello Neighbour is one of the bets of the festival at this point in time. He won the Spring Juvenile at the DRF. That's usually a massive pointer towards the Triumph. Of course, last year we had Cargés, he won it. And then Majbra came second in that race. They then reversed the form when they got to Triumph. You can't beat graded form against juvenile. East India Dock's been beating the likes of Stenzel, sort of horses rated in the 130. You need to be a 150 horse to go on and win a Triumph hurdle. 11-2 might not be some people's bag. I am more than happy to have a sizable bet each way at 5-1 because I can't see him being out of the first three. I think he should be half this price. East India Dock's form doesn't tally up to what he's done. Lulamba beat Mondo Man. That form was really let down next time with the horse being so keen and running.
So Mondo Man goes and wins it.
Yeah, well, there you go. Exactly, of course. But look, I just think that grade 2 form from DRF, you can't beat. I do not understand how he's 11-2 and not 2-1 for this race.
Yeah, I think this is a race that if you're still on the fence, I'd actually wait. I'd see how kind of the 3 days of the festival play out before Friday. I think you've got, in the case of East India Dock, you've got Stenzel running in the Boodles. That might be a pointer to how good his form is. You've then got Hello Neighbour. It looks like, well, Lady Vega Allen was declared today, so that's in the same race, the Boodles. Willie Mullins really talks her up. She's going to kind of show how good that form is. You've also potentially got Galileo Dane going for the Mayor's Novice. I think she's going to get £10 in that. So by the time of Friday morning, you might get a much better pointer to how good both East India Dock and Hello Neighbour's form is. Look, I think the Lambert, yeah, you're right, Paul Henderson knows. He knows what it takes. The vibes will be strong, but I don't think anyone in this room would be back if you took the race as it is today, looking at the race card, you just wouldn't back the Lambert. I think you have to take him on. So yeah, I would wait, see how the Tuesday to Thursday plays out, and then you might get a better gauge then of which juvenile form stacks up the best.
Okay, so moving on to what is a candidate for the worst ever graded race at Cheltenham. Can anybody find anything to beat Dino Blue with, or is she just winning by default? Can we move on? Anybody in the room got an alternative to Dino Blue? Anybody at home? No, let's move on. Okay, right. Got a bit of a treat now. Got the roving mic there, Matt.
Yeah.
Perfect. We've got some of the owners of Wendigo in the room, so when we talk about the Bartlett, we really should hear about the owner's views of their own horse.
I think he's got a really good chance. He'll stay on. He'll definitely stay. There is the French horse in there though as well, Jet Blue, that won at Cheltenham easy. That could be a danger. He'll be the shortest price British horse in there.
So have you guys had a runner at the festival before?
Oh.
First time or at Cheltenham at all?
Yeah.
So what a day.
Yeah.
What a day.
Been on it since 50s.
We're all looking forward to it. 48 hours out. But God only knows what you guys are thinking.
And if the new lion goes and wins, John, right, we'll have a significant form boost then, won't we, from
Yeah.
Cello?
Yeah, the new line did beat him well, though, didn't he? Very easy. But hopefully we can go like Gavin Sheehan did yesterday and come from nowhere again, same as he did for Wendigo.
The good news, guys, everybody in the room, and probably everybody at home, is if he wins, we're all invited to the party.
Yeah.
Look, genuinely, very best of luck, guys. You know, it's stuff that we all dream of. You know, we love being at the festival, but every one of us would love to be in the position you're in. Win, lose or draw, just being there in that position is just fabulous.
We also have a lady at the back called Tan. I can see you there, Tan. She is also part of the Wendigo Syndicate as well. So, look, he's given us a lot of joy this year. To be honest, taking us to places we didn't realise that he could go. He got beaten on debut in a sprint finish, but from then it's just absolutely taken off. The beauty about him as well is you can all get involved, by the way, for £75 a share, one-off fee. If you'd like to come, and then you can obviously visit the horses. You can come to the races with us, getting owners' badges and all of the rest of the good stuff. But he's also really nicely bred by a horse called Great Pretender. Great Pretender's the sire to Lossiemouth, Benny Deju, Putty Zig, Grenadine, loads of graded runners and graded winners, in fact, at the Cheltenham Festival. And we're hoping that Wendigo can put us on the map as well with a winner this year too. And Jamie Snowden's guys feel pretty damn bullish about his chances. So, up the Wendigo.
Yeah, best of luck, guys. Rich?
I'm a big fan of the Big Westerner. She's got to break a lot of trends to win it. But she's done nothing wrong so far, and I think she's very, very good. And she's going to get £7 from the boys. It's a very open race. There's a lot of horses that, a lot of unexposed horses that could win it. But the Big Westerner is, you know, if I had to back one horse now, as of today, I'd take 5-1 the Big Westerner.
Okay. Just quickly, she's also a half brother to Stay Away Faye, who won this race previously. She's a gorgeous big mare, the Big Westerner. I've got to side with Wendigo, but the Big Westerner could be exceptional as well. Yeah, like you say, Richard, as well.
John?
I'll keep it very quick. I don't really particularly like the race too much. I think Argento Boy, only just beat by the Big Westerner. So yeah, maybe have a little each way on that.
But I am also in her camp. I think she's got an outstanding chance. I think the danger actually is Jet Blue. You mentioned him earlier. You know, it was really impressive. I thought, not jumping particularly well. They've since come out and said they hadn't schooled him over English style hurdles. They've schooled him pretty hard. He's now think he's pretty slick. So they think there's a lot of improvements come from him too. You know, another opportunity for Caroline Tittle, who seems to have favourites or great opportunities everywhere out of the blue. You know, and good for her. You know, owners like her that have been in the game for a long, long time. You know, put a lot of money in. They deserve to have their success, and hopefully she has some success all the way. Just not in this race against Wendigo, of course, but she can have final demand maybe. So that brings us on to the big one. It's just Galloping, isn't it? Has anybody got any other opinion that can anybody get Galloping beat? Anybody in the room think Galloping can beat? Hands up. If anybody thinks Galloping gets beat, just put your hand up quickly. Yeah, you knew you were going to get a mic, didn't you?
Look, he's just exceptional, isn't he? He's
Exactly that.
got the chance to emulate best mate now, but not only is he potentially going to win 3 Gold Cups, he's already won 3 Irish Gold Cups as well. It's just class personified, isn't it, at this boy? The fact that even at the DRF, Factor 5 eyeballed him at the last, coming off the pace, trying to use his finish, and then Galopan just took off. He's just exceptional. He really is. He's a joy to our sport. Yeah, and he should be shouted about as well. We really need to promote it if you can win 3 Gold Cups.
I think that's a great point, actually. Obviously, the references in Best Mate that we made a lot. Best Mate was sparing and campaigned. Willie Mullins has just chucked this guy into every single race. He's raced the 4 or 5 times a season. Make the most of him. He's exceptional.
And I'll add something else to that. You know, Best Mate was, for me, high 160s horse in the poor era. And I don't want to do them down because you'd like to see those horses as champions. And I love Best Mate. But Galloping is different class to Best Mate for me. You know, he's a 180 horse. Nothing can get near. As long as he's got his optimal conditions. The only time he was really vulnerable was when he was coming up at over 2.5 at Leopardstown, which just didn't suit him. It was a great prep for him for the season, you know, getting some speed into his legs. But for me, you know, having a gallop in, we can sit there and I see a lot of complaints online that racing isn't competitive, and so what? You know, for me, racing is all about champions. And Galloping is an absolute champion. You know, we are so lucky to have horses like that and to be there and to see those horses. I don't care the fact that he's not a betting material. Who cares? You know, we don't have to bet in every race. We can just appreciate the fact that we've got champions. And it's just great.
It could be 4 next year, Paul, as well. And what I'll say, just to add to the spice of Gallopin, the beauty about him as a horse is he is not bred to be a staying chaser. Willie Mullins manufactured this horse from the very beginning and turned him into a top-class animal, and he is now stands their head and heels above anything else that we've ever seen since Best Mate. He really is. So
it's funny, actually. I don't think since Best Mate. Actually, I think you know, the horse I put alongside is Kato Star. And I did a Q&A thing with Dan for a group of people that I know last week. And one of the questions to Dan was, you know, is there any horse in your lifetime that you could train? Which one was it? It was Kato Star, however you want to pronounce his name. But of course, Dan was assistant trainer to Paul at that time, so he was involved with him through that. And he was a horse that, you know, you could campaign at 2 miles and 3 miles, and he'd win all the same. He was just so versatile. He was a proper champion. And Galloping for me is the same kind of horse. You know, they're absolute freaks. You know, they just have that complete blend of stamina and speed. It doesn't matter where you put them; they just adapt, and they're just so much better than every other horse. So, and I think Galloping is the horse that's come along and, you know, is up on that same mantle for me.
his ability to jump fluently still at the end of a slog of 3 miles, 2-3 miles is just exceptional. And he doesn't just get over, he lands running. You know, this is why they can't beat him in the finish. They can do what they want with Factor File. The further you go, the further Gallopin's going to beat him by, really.
Anyway, I'm just going to say one final thing before we have another break, and we're going to get on to the handicaps. I know a lot of people are waiting for that now, and there's probably people at home that I know that say, hurry up. You know who you are. I'm just going to have a mini rant because, you know, on the basis of the way the fields are working out this season, presumably the Jockey Club in Cheltenham are going to turn the Gold Cup into a handicap next season. Anyway, let's move on. Let's take a break, guys. 5 minutes, get refresh your drinks, go to the loo. I'll speak to you shortly. Doing this thing.
Thanks for working well, isn't it? Yeah. Just move this.
Oh yeah, yeah. Buy that. Oh, King Royal.
We won't do anything.
The mic change.
Matt, we're going to restart. Tell me when. Okay, so we're back with the first 2 days of the handicaps, and we're going to kick off with. Who are we kicking off with? The Ultima. Actually, the Ultima is one of those races where I think when you look at the early entries, it wasn't looking particularly competitive. I reckon it's one of the most competitive handicaps of the week now. Rich, I know you specialise in this race, so I would say that if anybody's making notes, Rich finds the winner of this race year after year after year. So what wins?
Well, this is going to be won by next year's Grand National winner. So you get 2 tips of the price of one. I haven't seen any lists for 2026 Grand National yet, but as soon as they appear, I'm going to be on it. And the horse is Whistle Stop Tour. Just looked on the phone. Best price now is 11 to 1. He's a 7-year-old trained by Lucinda Russell, who knows all about winning this race with Correct Ramble 2 years in a row. I really rate this horse. He's only had 4 runs over fences, and I was impressed. He's a very economical jumper. He's a real professional. He doesn't do anything flashy, but he's a stayer in the mould of Correct Rambler. At this stage of his career, he's rated about £4 worse than Correct Rambler was when he won the Ultima for the first time. But I think his current mark of 136 underestimates him. I think he's got a bit in hand on that. The weights are due to rise, I think, by £5, which again is another tick in the box. The Whistle Stop Tour. It'll take him up to 10 stone 12 from 10.7, and more importantly, it'll send most of his main market rivals, which, as Paul says, it's a very competitive race. It'll put them well above the 11 stone mark. and I think they're going to struggle to give this horse away. Whistle Stop Tour, he's down near the bottom of the handicap. There won't be many below him. 5 of the last winners of this race were novices. He's undoubtedly, to my mind, the best novice in the field. His best run over hurdles was on good to soft. So although I don't think he's run on as good to soft ground over fences yet, I don't think it'll be a problem for him. He had a lovely sight on the track back in January when he ran over 2.5 miles, a trip too short for him, behind Jaguar, who was the very impressive winner that day. Whistle Stop Tour has given him £5, finished at 15 lengths behind in 5th place. And, he's one that I'm looking forward to an awful lot this week.
That's definitely one for you, Noble, because as I say, Rich just seems to have, it's your lucky race, I would say. You don't miss that race very often.
Yeah, well, done quite well lately.
I think, look, the complexion of that race has changed a lot from, the initial expectations. A lot of that will be to do with, the novices now needing that extra run. So there'll be a whole host of horses that would potentially have been aimed at that race and they just couldn't get the runs in for whatever reason, or they're not as well handicapped now. He's one of the few novices as well, isn't he, Rich? So I think that's probably an important point to make. Novices have an outstanding record in the race. The other real good source of winners from that race is from the Hennessy, or Coral Gold Cup, or Ladbroke Gold Cup, or what flavour Gold Cup it is now. So you're generally looking at those 2 routes. Your choice that from those 2 routes, Joe?
I'm actually against one that came from that route. With I'm going to try and give you one I don't fancy at the head of the market, and then give you my fancy for the race. And Broadway Boy, 2nd or 3rd, wasn't he, in the Hennessy? He's got a rating of 150. And the problem with Broadway Boy coming into a race like this is it doesn't always benefit front runners. Broadway Boy is an out-and-out front runner, and the problem with him is when you're trying to make the running, you're trying to set all of the right fractions so you can kill off all of the opposition. He's been his own worst enemy this year. That he's been making a mistake late on in his races, and that's been ruining his chances late on in the races. That's basically what happened in the Hennessy this year. He was travelling like a dream. He really was. Hit one hard and was then never able to recover.
And he did the same with Cheltenham, actually, more recently.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. Late on mistake.
Yeah.
And those things start to become a habit, don't they? They're normally 2 times.
Of course. And also, when he last won, he was rated 137. He's now a 150 horse. Those 3 wins as well came in field sizes of 5, 6, and 8. Much easier to apply those front running tactics. But when you've got a 22 runner, sort of deep handicap like the Ultima, there's a lot of traffic problems. I find it hard to see him maintaining those fractions, staying at the hill, beating off well-handicapped horses like Whistle Stop Tour, like Richard said. But the one for me would be Henry's Friend here off 145. He has the absolute ideal profile for an Ultima. He comes from off the pace, he finds, he jumps well. He seems to improve through his races as well. He won't be too far behind on that home turn. And his best work is late on in his races. He's just going to fly at that hill. Again, similar to a couple that I've mentioned earlier on in the day, like Better Days Ahead. They're going to have a nice pace to run out. He's not going to be far away. I think at about 14 to 1, he's a cracking each way better. He's got the right profile for it. Jumps well, travels, finds. Whereas Broadway Boy's got a few questions to answer, I think, as a front runner. You're not going to see too many front runners win the Ultimate. Certainly not with his jumping.
See, again, for those that watch the annual NIAD announcements, you guys know that I'm also in the same camp with Henry's Friend. I think he has the perfect profile. Ironically, for Rich, I think he has a very similar profile run style to Coral Rambler. And Coral Rambler actually also ran in the Hennessy that year, down the field, having his prep. I think Henry's Friend finished 7th in the Hennessy. Improved fitness-wise from that race. His season's gone on from there. The thing I really love about Henry's Friend is, there's some crossball. We were talking, in the break about the King of Rye-Hope. They both ran in the Reynolds-Town. Now, King of Rye-Hope smashed in the last place and probably would have beaten Henry's Friend that day. We'll never know. Was involved with King of Rye-Hope too. But the thing I like about him is he only does enough. He's not one of these flashy horses who's going to go and win by 5-10 lengths. He's going to just go and win. And they're hard for the handicapper to get hold of. And I think there's still a fair amount in his mark. So whilst I'm saying this is a competitive race, for me, it'll be won by a Whistle Stop Tour type that's a novice, that's still exposed, or it'll be won by a Henry's friend that has the right profiles, come through the right races, it still remains, you know, the right side of the handicapper.
He won't mind the traffic problems that's going to
No,
happen.
absolutely.
Here as well.
Couldn't agree more.
Big
Couldn't agree more.
hustly race, you know.
He'll be there or thereabouts. He won't be right at the head of the affairs, but he'll be near enough to strike when he gets ready, and he'll stay. John?
Yeah, so I'll just touch on a few trends in this race. It's quite a good trends race, actually. Most of you probably heard the RPI. A horse has to run its best RPR over 3 miles. It's the last 23 winners. The Irish, surprisingly, they're 0 to 46 runners, although they are getting closer. Recent Waters, third last year. Fast or Slow second. The Gotha fourth. I don't think it's write them off completely, but it's heavily British based. Interestingly, one of the big stats is in the last 10 years, 7 have ran in a previous festival. The 3 that didn't run in the festival ran at the course that season, and they also placed course 4. You had the conditional and Corrick Ramsey who won, and the Joy's nephew came second. And 4 of the 10 winners actually came back and won the race. It's also a handicap where the market tends to have it right. For the last 5 renewals, the winner has been found in the top 3 in the market. And actually, if you go back between 2015 and 2018, the favourite is placed twice, and the second favourite is placed each time. So it's probably not a race that pays to look too far down the market. I'd probably look at the kind of top 6 maximum. Touched upon the Hennessy, the record there, 5 out of 10 winners. And Twig came second last year. He also backed up a Hennessy run into the Ultimate. Now, the interesting part is I actually like one of the ones you're opposing, Broadway Boy. I saw it down there and I thought, oh, we've gone for the same horse. But not quite. I get it, look, he's 150. People will say he's kind of reached his limit. Now, horses actually with high ratings in the race do well. Fast or Slow, 150, he came second. I Right, third of 154. Kildazar, second of 150. Shantu Flyer, second of 152. I could reel off a whole host of names. I think it's a specialist race. If you're a solid 150s horse that likes Cheltenham, this is a key race. You don't have to have 10, 12 pounds in hand. If you're a course specialist, if you ran in the right races, I think it's massive. He actually reminds me a bit of Beware the Bear. He won under Henderson. Now, he actually ran in the race, came 4th, followed up the next year of 151. I remember thinking, he came 4th on a lower mark. He's not going to win off 151, but he loved the track. He won that season, and I think to me, Broadway Boy fits a similar mould, to be honest. Placed course 1 this season, which obviously fits that trend about running at the course this season. Just touched off in the Hennessy. I do agree, Henry's friend, massive danger, but I still think with the weight swing, how far he beat him, beating him 6 lengths, giving him £9, he's still actually better off in the weights. So that swing isn't enough for me to bring them back, especially as Henry's friend doesn't as of yet have the course form. As we spoke about the National Hunt Chase, pulled up, I think there's excuses and we're going on 1 run. But he doesn't have that course form. I think it's Twisted Davies, they rate their horses. They're still saying they think he's a Gold Cup horse. I don't. However, if they genuinely think in his second season that he's a Gold Cup horse, you have to be 160s to even run in the race. I'm still going to go on the basis that they think they've got a little bit in hand there, that he's better than what is 151. I think if you look back through last season, all his form in the old course, which is obviously the trip and the course he's going to run on, he has form through 300 through 5, he's 155, Flooring Porter, he's 159. What the Twisted Davies did, we saw it with Potter's Charm this year, they just over-raced him. He had 4 runs by the time they got to it's actually the Grey Dawning race at Warwick. He had 4 runs as a novice chaser. They go to Warwick in January, just bottom him out. and basically just right off the season there, he didn't turn up an entry. So I think if you forget his last 2 runs last season, this season had a little prep over handicap hurdles in a handicap race at the track, came third, no excuses, set him up for the Hennessy perfectly, may well have won if he didn't do it. Obviously, mistake you could say was time creeping in, but ran a huge race in second, which is such a good pointer for this. And January, write it off. He came fourth out of 5, but Tristan Davis Yard have said he actually has problems with his knees. They've medicated the knees now. He's in flying form. So basically, just if you write off that one run, I think he's got a great chance still. He was going to be due to run off 11 stone 7, which I think is a lucky weight. Like you said, it's gone up £5, so he is off 11 stone 12, but he has done that weight before. I think he can run a huge race. Second horse, I'll just quickly mention, Paul, you know, a guy called Joe. He's probably one of the best handicap judges I know. Sorry, Joe, not you.
Just making the point, it's not this Joe.
Yeah. He really rates Qatari Doorway. Thinks he's got a huge chance. Probably the one element that I had against him was that lack of Cheltenham course form. I think he's run twice and he's not really showed up. But yeah, his run last time, absolutely huge. We've seen this race, you had Jericho Rock, who snuck in at the bottom of the weights, came second. You had the conditional, snuck in at the bottom of the weights. He won the race. Obviously, he did get hyped up for that captain win. However, he needed to get a run in the race. So I think he's still progressive. Ideally, from a trend point of view, I would have rather he had the course form. So I would side with Bullrow Boy. But yeah, I'd probably definitely stick both of them as each race.
Okay, I'm just going to throw a couple of quick ones out there that I think are overlooked at bigger prices. First of all, Trelawn. I like Trelawn for all the reasons you like Broadway Boy, because if you go back through all that cross form and work your way back through it, Trelawn is the better treat of the 2 horses. And the other one is one that goes against the trends, but only, it's a logical trend. A horse doesn't not win because it's Irish. Search for Glory, go back to last year's Albert Bartlett, must have an outstanding chance. And you look at the best of its form, we know that Gordon Elliott isn't necessarily going to be looking for a horse like him to go and win 4 or 5 races on the trot this season when he's not going to put him into a grade 1, he's going to go and exploit a handicap mark. I think Search for Glory could be really, really well handicapped. And I think a lot of people just assumed he wasn't going to win in the race, or they've looked at some blind stats. I think he's one that will go very close.
They're going to win it sooner or later, the Irish as well. Like you said, it's a silly stat that the UK won the last 17. It's not for any reason. However, they are starting to target this ball, so yeah, it could be a very dark horse.
Yeah, exactly that. Okay, let's move on to the Fred Winter, which is hasn't cut up particularly much, and therefore Beyond Your Dreams doesn't currently get a run. The irony of that being, yesterday JP McManus said we should cut these handicaps down to 20 runners, and both him and a work in progress, neither of them get a run and miss out by 1. So the irony of the timing. He's a reserve, and it may well be someone gets pulled out, and he could potentially put. Well, he's not going to put a stencil, is he? So he's got to get lucky, I guess, if he gets a run now. And he was very well fancied. You can see why, because all his cross form was the same. But let's do this race quickly, guys. No long explanations. Just give me one horse. Rich, give me one horse.
2 runs, Paul. 2 runs. You're on about the other one. You're on about
Average sorry, yeah.
You're on 3 runs.
Yeah, sorry.
The worst handicapped horse in the race wins. Wendrock, 20-1.
Which is interesting.
Great each way back.
That would be an interesting little each way double, wouldn't it? Search for Glory and Wendrock, both 20-25 to 1, 2 Jigginstown horses.
3 of the last 6 winners of this race have carried 11-8 or 11-9. And the winner usually comes from the top 12 in the list. So weight is not such an issue. I think there's £15 between top weight and bottom weight in this, so it's not a huge. And Gordon was chosen. Sorry if it's the one-word answer. I thought Gordon might put a claimer on Wendrock, but he's put Jack up instead. So I think that speaks volumes in itself. He doesn't feel he needs it.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take on Stencil for start. Like I said, I'll give you one I don't fancy. He's got a mark of 135. He is currently trading as the favourite. He got beat by East India Dock by 10 lengths. I think that's as good as he is. I think you can see plenty of other horses getting within 10 lengths of East India Dock, as I've mentioned. It's interesting that Noel George hasn't had a winner in the UK this year. He sent tons of horses over. But the one for me is Mercia. I've been on this filly for a long time now. She's a lovely horse by Dr. Dino, who tend to excel over 2 miles in hurdles. She actually came from France after winning a listed race by 12 lengths. She absolutely dotted her. They then bought her with the hope that she was going to be a Triumph hurdle horse. She bombed out on debut, but then last time out, she was there clear with Bacchanalian, 8 lengths in a really good race. Bacchanalian then hosed up in a grade 3 the next time out.
Bacchanalian form.
Yes.
He's not there, but that cross form through Bacchanalian everywhere is definitely
identified. Look, he's a Gowden, she's a filly, and she ran off the same weight as him and then ran to a neck. He hosed up in a grade 3 next time. I'm convinced that this was one of their horses for the Triumph hurdle. Things just didn't plan out first time out, which is why they then decided to run her again and chuck her in the Boodles. Look, Rach Blackmore's going to be on board. It's a Kenny Alexander horse. 136 surely doesn't underestimate her true ability. I think she's got all the gears, and she won't be far away. Mercia for me each way.
John, what's the stats horse?
Just very briefly, it's Irish based. 16 of the last 21 placed horses have been in Irish trained, and they've dominated. Interestingly, Willie Mullins is 0 in 11, and that includes 2 favourites in that time. Gordon Elliott is 3 of 7. A lot of people know you had that Nace race in January. That tends to be a pointer. I think there's a little bit of coincidence there. I'm actually going to go with you, Rich. I think Wendrock. I think there's easily another scenario where a week ago, 2 weeks ago, when the weights came out, he was harshly treated. But I think there's another scenario where if Wendrock had got 6 or 7 pounds less, he's favourite for this race. I think Elliott obviously an outstanding chance. Like Paul says, he's got all the form, timing, the total look, Beyond Your Dreams, Galileo Dane, Hello Neighbour. He's got to get that handicap rating. That's gone against him. But other than that, I think he's got great chance, certainly each way. And I actually think because of that, he'll probably drift out, and you might actually get bigger than 20 to 1 currently.
And for me, I went fairly early in this race. I've liked Beyond the Dreams for a long time. I couldn't recommend Beyond the Dreams now. The price, I think it's too short, but I don't think the price stops it winning. I've liked Wendrock from a long way out. It's pretty harsh getting £7 from the UK handicapper, but you'd have expected him to get 3 or 4. And if I fancy him with 3 or 4, I can't say it stops him with the extra 3. But the one I really like actually is one that's a big price, and I don't think I've heard anybody talking about. He's just, he's got that same cross form. He has a high flat rating, and he's completely unexposed on the flat. So I think he's a horse that on the flat could be a 100+ horse, and that's a horse called Holy See, William Durkin's horse. I'm not sure of his price today. He was 33 to 1 a few days ago. He's still going to be pretty big, 25 to 1. And I wouldn't put anybody up a bet on him at 25 to 1. I think he could be a long way ahead of his mark. Okay, so we're moving on to the National Hunt Chase. JP's a work in progress, looked like a bit of a blot on the handicap actually against the top of the market. He hasn't got in, he needs 1 to come out. It would be in JP's gift to do that. He could pull Hastings, however you pronounce it. But they both have entries in the Midlands National, so you'd expect that one of them still will go to the Midlands National. But by doing the entries the way they have, they actually still retain the option. So I don't think a work in progress is definitely a non-runner. And I would really fancy him if he was a runner, and I'd have him against anything at the head of the market. I think now as the hour is far too short for me. I see the case, don't get me wrong, I do see the case, but it's not much more compelling than a few others. Haiti colours, transmission, I can see the case for all of those horses. But a new handicap like this, there are reasons to take on the head of the market for me. There are horses further down that look well handicapped, and I'm going to pick one out, and that's Kintara. He can probably finish second to anything, if I'm honest. He probably shouldn't be the best, winning best in the world, but I think he gets enough. I haven't got the numbers in front of me. I think he gets enough 127 or something. And that grossly underestimates his ability. He's another one, slightly different to Henry's friend when I'm saying, he doesn't win by too far. He just gets beaten by something every time. It's the other way around, really. But it just ends up as a really well handicapped horse. He's run really well at the festival before. The Potence, was it second of the Potence last year? Was it last year? It was second. Yeah, it was. It was second of the Potence last year. Again, looking as though it will stay, as far as you want him to stay. And I think he's a big price. He'll be 20 to 1, 25 to 1 now. And I really like him. Rich, sorry. I have to remember the microphone as well.
Well, I'm pretty boring on this one. I think the top three in the market are the three that I most fancy. I was going to, my preference was for Transmission until I saw that Patrick was on board. And, nothing against Patrick, but he's up against the pros, and the other horse with the potential is Now Is the Hour. And I think, with Keith Donoghue on board, even though he's got to give him he's giving Transmission £6, so he'd be the one for me. I think he's got more scope for improvement than Rebecca Curtis's horse, Haiti Couleur. But I find it difficult to look beyond those three.
Joe?
Yeah, the horse I fancied in her actually has been taken out, but I'm going to go against you, unfortunately, here, Richard. I don't understand the case for Now Is the Hour whatsoever. He finished 4th at Navan off a mark of 125. He now runs here off 139, £14 higher. Despite being given tender-handed last time out, he's got to run at least a stone and a half better than what he's done at Cheltenham to be considered as the winner here. And I don't understand the angle.
What is well, I think he's running the wrong race. I think he'd be better in the Kimio.
Yeah, I was going to say the Kimio. And funny enough, the horse that I fancy for this race, Sam Jest, is going to run in the Kimio instead. I do not understand the angle. Not only has he got to run up to 139, he's probably got to run up to about 144. I think he's far too heavily handicapped in this race to be considered a 3-1 favourite. This is going to drift on the day. This is going off 5-6 to 1.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he will be a drifter.
Far too skinny.
And I think he's in this race rather than Kim Muir because the owners committed early, got the money down, and I think it's hard to move him. I think they may have, if that money hadn't gone down, I think they'd still be, up until this morning, would have been considering both races.
He's got to run a career best to win this with a heightened mark more than any other handicapped horse in the entire festival. The 3-1 is scandalous. It's absolutely a joke of a price.
Yeah, great. John?
He's also got ground completely against him.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, I mean, his best form is on proper deep ground. So yeah, I wouldn't be touching his price now. I think a lot of it's going to boil down to that Transmission and Hattie Couleur's form line. It might dictate the race, or it might just be a level below. I've seen a few people kind of hook onto obviously the Patrick Mullins booking. Said it's been a plan the whole season. Patrick Mullins won in October, November on the horse. That's not actually the case. Bowen would have rode if he didn't have a suspension. So that's not been it might be a laydown plan for the race, but the Patrick Mullins booking less so. I do think a work in progress. I think he will run. JP will get a checkbook out. I
would really hope he runs.
Yeah.
I'm making this. Kintara finishes second to him if he runs. Kintara finishes second yet again.
Yeah, I mean, I know we spoke outside of this preview, and you touched on his form with indoor over hurdles. If you take a look at that, Fobwell back a year ago, that if you look at indoors rating over fences now, a work in progress could be very, very well treated. He's one of the few really progressive horses in the race. He's only just been doing enough. He's sure to stay. Like Now Is the Hour the favourite. He has got a slight concern about the ground. Actually, it's debatable whether he would run even with that. But yeah, I think he's basically 4 times the price of the favourite. They both got ground concerns, but I'll definitely go for him. The other one, just an each-way price, is David Pipe. So I feel like I'm about
wondering whether someone was going to mention Jerry.
I feel like I'm about 20 years too late for this one. Somehow he's still a novice. He's probably got arguably the best form in the race. He was second in a Grade 3 Classic at Warwick. He was second in the Ultima, so he's got course and festival form. He was also third in the Hennessy. The big issue that he's got is he had 763 days off, backed up in Windsor in January. Ran a really good race in third, travelled well, and the massive issue he got is a potential bounce. That's a long layoff. Generally find that a horse can come back on their first run, and you'll actually see the knock-on effects when they run again. So that's the worry you've got.
But he's had 6 weeks between races. That's okay.
Yeah.
If it was 3 or 4 weeks, I'd be concerned. I think 6 weeks is enough to get that out of his legs.
Yeah. So I think the ability's still there. I think arguably he's got the best form in the race. He could very well run a good race.
Okay, so that's day 1 handicaps. So we'll do day 2. We'll have a quick break after day 2. That's the Coral Cup. So I'm going to kick off with the Coral Cup because I think, be aware, everybody's talking about Kopek to me, for whichever way it's going to be, the county hurdle or the pipe, probably the pipe, has been the best handicapped horse in the entire festival over the years. I think actually Be Aware is. This has been a plan. He's been seen as a horse that needs 2.5 miles. Despite that, he was good enough to go very close in the Greatwood Hurdle early season. He's been looked after specifically for this, so his mark's been looked after. I think he's a long way ahead of the handicapper with more improvement to come. It doesn't always mean you win these races, you've got to have nothing running, but we know it's a trainer who knows how to win the Coral Cup, shall we say, and knows how to get a horse properly handicapped. And I think Be Aware, for me, is my strongest handicap horse of the entire festival. The only reason he wasn't the Naiad this year was because of the price. If it had been the right kind of price, we get double figures, which was never going to happen, by the way, then without a shadow of a doubt, he would have been the Naiad this year. I think he is just easily the best handicapped horse at the festival. I think if he didn't have looking running the alternatives, the horses I'm looking at, because this is a race where you will get big price horses running into places. And there's a trainer that's actually quite adept at that in this race, that tends to do quite well in this race regardless. And he's got 2 horses in this race, assuming they're both declared, that is, that I think can run big races. The first one is around 20 to 1, 25 to 1 is maximum. I think that horse, this kind of race, big field handicaps are exactly what he wants. He's going to be at the top of the handicap, but Elliot's done it before. I picked out Commander of Fleet for very similar reasons, actually. And there's another one that I think is completely overlooked and nobody's talked about at all. It's a massive price. It's 50 to 1, and that's Staffordshire Knot. You look back at his form. I haven't got it in front of me now. And I'm not going to go through it, but you look back at his form. It's graded level form. Go back to Aintree last year, just behind Brighter Days Ahead, who people are talking about potentially winning the Champion Hurdle. Now, we know that Gordon Elliott is good at getting them laid out. And like this horse, in my opinion, has been absolutely laid out for something. Whether it's this race or whether it's something else or these different conditions, I don't know. I'm prepared to take a chance. But 50 to 1, I've had a good bet on it. I really have had a good bet. So that'd be the 2 that I would pick out at big prices. Rich?
Well, I'm with you on Be Aware. The Greatwood form stands out for me. He's done most of his racing on the sort of ground he's going to get. 4 to 1. I wouldn't fancy.
You wouldn't back it now.
No, it's a cavalry charge, but Be Aware for me. Yeah, Comfort Zone would be the one. It's 12 to 1, I think.
He's another one that's been laid out for something.
Yeah,
I agree.
And he'd have a chance.
Joe?
Yeah, I put a Be Aware on my odds checker column at much bigger prices. So like you said, I won't go in for now, but I still think he's going to have a really good chance. Plenty of speed. Just that jump in with me for Be Aware is the slight worry, if there is one, I suppose. But I would also be now looking at the prices at 12 to 1 each way as opposed to for Nicky Henderson. He's a 141 horse. He's run 10 times in his career and hasn't yet finished outside of the first 3. He's got that Cheltenham form as well. He's a horse that could well be sort of like your Greatwood horse sort of thing for next year, Grade 2, possibly even a Grade 1 animal. He came back from a long layoff and finished second to Lucia, who was, of course, subsequently She was third in the champion hurdle. That form isn't too bad for a horse that's still on the up. Look, I think his mark basically underestimates where he's at the moment. He ticks all the boxes, and he will do for me as a real consistent sort.
I think it's also fair to say that it's unusual for Nicky Henderson not to have a horse in the Coral Cup that isn't there or thereabouts. He looks like the outstanding one.
They'd have mapped him out for this, It's,
yeah, great.
And he's got some good form along the way.
John?
Yeah, to start with, obviously touched on Henderson. This race, so the Coral Cup always looks like a minefield, but actually you can there's a lot of Irish runners, but basically if you look at it as it's Irish runners, Nicky Henderson or Dan Skelton, they dominate the race. In the last 5 years, they filled 17 of the 20 places, so 85%. It's those three. Now, you do have a lot of runners with the Irish, fair enough, but that's the three kind of profile of horses that you want to concentrate on. Interestingly with Henderson, he's finished 4th, 5th, 2nd, 1st, 4th in the last 7 years.
I'm not a guesser then.
And actually, it's not always with the shorter priced favourites.
Some of his older horses have a really good record.
Yeah, like William Henry.
What else have we got in there that
I think
Nicky Henderson? We've got some of the more experienced horses of his.
I don't think he's got many.
He hasn't got the battalion that he often has.
No, so
yeah, he's going to fly.
just to touch on, obviously, the Irish saying how good they are. Willie Mullins. So a lot of people might look at his record 1 in 50 and say draw a line. Now, actually, yes, he's only won one race, but if you look through some of the horses he's ran, he's actually got some massive placed finishes. You had Scaramanga at 50 to 1, finished 4th. Maze Runner 5th at 40 to 1. Bacchus 33 to 1. Wicklow Brave 28 to 1. Obviously Blueberry won it at 20 to 1. Interestingly, in 3 of the races, he's had the favourite, but it's the outsider that has always run well. So I wouldn't discount Willie Mullins at all. I'd give a chance to
one of his I think is actually quite interesting, and it's off a layoff, is Jimmy de Soy. Again, looking at graded form, a lot of these handicaps you tend to find, where for whatever reason, these graded horses find their way into handicaps, and Jimmy de Soy is probably a really good example of this. I think he's rated 145, somewhere around there, 146 maybe. I think that probably underestimates his mark. I think he's probably a 150-ish type hurdler, or will be a 150-ish type hurdler. The question is, will he be that, on the Wednesday of the festival? You worry maybe about the layoff. There's obviously something that's held them back with him, but we won't run them if they're not absolutely spot on. So particularly not in big handicaps like this. So you'd say they're probably targeting at this, I reckon.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing he has in his favour, which again is a strong trend in this race, is 8 out of the 10 last winners have course form. Of those 8, 4 won, and there were 2 seconds. So yeah, you really want a horse that has proved himself at the track. The 2 that didn't, Diamond King under Gordon Elliott, that was actually when he was with Donald McCain. So trainer switch, obviously clear improvement there. And Super Sunday, who was actually twice outside of the places, but one of those was in the Supreme, which is the actual Supreme, which is one of the best Supremes we've had. So yeah, you're looking at course form, and I'll probably just follow in with the 2s already mentioned. Be Aware, obvious claims. Yeah, Impostoir, for what Joe said, I think he fits so many of the trends. He's never finished outside the first 3. That Lucia, Form 9, she was rated 149. Altabelli was 3rd that day, rated 147. I think there's definitely scope in that 141 rating. Henderson loves the race. He's still 90 race, only 8 runs. And actually probably may have won that Ascot race. Made 2 mistakes in the last 2 hurdles.
Just one thing to mention, just because you mentioned the Willie Mullins runners as well, is the only issue with the Mullins horses coming into this race, the likes of Bunting and Super Sunday, we've never had a novice win the Coral Cup, and that's generally because they're stepping down from Grady Company, but it still leaves their marks a little bit too high and a lot of improvement still to come. which is probably why, like you're saying, Paul, is we need to be looking at the likes of Skelton and Nicky Henderson who are gearing up their horses for this race.
They've been laid out this race right at the start of the season. I couldn't agree more.
I think it will be quite ironic as well. With just if Be Aware does win it, obviously the stick that Dan Skelton's got for Langer Dan the last 2 years, and the irony if he wins with Be Aware when he's the one horse that he's basically said every single interview, Be Aware is my best handicapped horse. It's pretty ironic, and I do think we see it like Skelton. He knows what it takes to win the county hurdle. We've seen this with the festival where trainers can kind of latch onto races and really do well. I've got a funny feeling that Dan Skelton might just have got to grips with the Coral Cup, and he might just string a few more wins.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, the other thing I'd say actually worth just pointing out, don't forget, races like the Coral Cup, you're going to get probably 7 places as well. So, it's a race where you can have a proper go with 3 or 4 horses, and some of these bigger price horses are definitely worth getting on side. Okay, so onto the cross country. So what I want to hear in a second is a really big yes if you're aboard the bus.
Hey!
There were some people who didn't say yes. What the hell's going on? You've got to be on the bus. We're all going on holiday on the bus this year.
Hey!
Look, I'm not going to make the case again for Bustleton. I think I've made a strong one. Everyone that's heard it seems to like it. It's the trends behind the trends kind of thing, because it's a new races across country, but as a handicap rather. But we get handicaps in November and December, and it's been run as a handicap at the festival before. So the trends that we can take from that, he's a really, really strong trends horse. So the trends you're looking for, in my opinion, is if you're looking at that festival handicap cross country, no horse has won it above 150 ever. That knocks a lot of horses out. The only horse that I think is above 150 that perhaps has a class angle is Galvin. He wants a road though, The cross country course is still currently soft, despite the water elsewhere. The water doesn't collect the ground in the same way. But you'd think it's going to be good soft by the time we get to the festival. That's probably okay for him, and I think he's probably the biggest danger of those higher. Vanillier, I think, wants soft ground, and I suspect they won't allow him to dominate the way that they did at Punchestown recently. And when you look back at that Punchestown race, he was followed up by Cocoa Beach, who was trying on the day, and you can look at the Cocoa Beach back at Cheltenham with the likes of Stumptown and Co. I think that probably pegs just about where Vanillier's mark is, so he went up for that as well. What else have we got that's maybe around that mark? Well, the Goffer, who was last year's, just don't, please don't. Was last year's Naiad, finished 4th in the Ultima. I think he's not without a chance, but I think Bustleton would ultimately outstay him. And again, he's been laid out for the race without a shadow of doubt. I'm confident of that. The one that I would maybe recommend having a bet on if you haven't already, at a big price, is Ascaria 10, who is available around 50 to 1. He finished 4th in that December cross country. So he's better off with the likes of Stumptown and Mr. Coffee, who's going to finish 2nd to anything. Not beaten particularly far. His first go at the cross country. But Martin Keith, his trainer, has done this before with a similar type horse whose name escapes me at the vital moment, but that's age for you. Which, any currency, yeah, but that's age for you, which is surprising. I've not been to the toilet during the breaks, by the way. Drinking very carefully there, because I'm the one person that can't go halfway through. And I think Ascaria 10 has a really good chance of running into a place at least at a very big price. He's getting a bottom weight. He's getting a lot of weight from those other cross-country horses like Stumptown and Galvin and Co. He's getting the best part of 2 stone from them. And that last run proved his ability is still intact. So he's theoretically also a well-handicapped horse. There aren't many horses in that race that you can say are well-handicapped. ultimately. The ones that have the potential to be would be Busselton, the Gotha, possibly Chemical Energy, actually, and I would say Ascaria 10. Ascaria 10 for me is a huge price. I'll be deeply offended if anybody on the panel has any other opinion than Busselton winning. I will give you the time of day, but you don't get to talk about any other race. Rich,
No,
are you brave enough?
no, I think you made a great case. I'm on board, and 10-7, that's a fantastic weight. And I think Joseph's going to have a really good festival. I think not just in this race. I think he's got live chance. He could be second to Mullins. No, I'm very happy to be on board. 7-1 now. Will I get? Well, that's probably still a bet actually. But the other, I think Galvin. You're right to mention Galvin. He'll win the Grand National hopefully. And Chemical Energy. I think if it's soft on the day, I'll be less keen on him. If it was better than soft, then he's down to 143 now. He was a close fifth in the Galway Plate, giving weight to the top four last summer. He's a price and on a mark, but he's very grand.
And they've not been trying with him. He's been right at the back of everything. He's not been putting a race all season.
If I could have one horse in the race, Busselton.
So that's one of the panel on the bus. Joe, you on the bus?
No, I'm not sorry, Paul.
Oh, for God's sake!
I must be honest, mate. I've really struggled with this race since it's been
let's go this way. We've just saved 1/3 of the amount of time between now and the end of the preview.
Perfect, right. But yeah, look, unfortunately, I'm just going to keep my input out of this race because I don't fancy much. It's hard for me to find a well-handicapped horse in a cross-country handicap. I'm just going to sidestep it for now.
Yeah, fair enough. John?
Yeah, so I love the case of Busselton, but before you put up Busselton, I'd be massively into Galvin's chances. So just a couple of bits on Galvin. I do think, I know a lot of your stats were good in terms of looking when it was a handicap, some of the kind of trials throughout the winter. I do think, looking back, certainly when the race used to be a handicap, completely different horses now. You just didn't get ex-Gold Cup horses, these kind of grade 1 performers that Elliott would just pop in, kind of steal while they've got plenty of ability. Galvin of 154 could still be really well treated. Obviously ground, everyone will say about the ground.
Yeah, but I'm going out water in the ground.
Yeah, you're worried. So yeah, when he finished second on his first try at the cross-country fences, that was when it was the Wednesday where the rain just came, it bucketed it down basically. That was the day where Ennigamine, the rain came for him, the rain came for Delta Work. So Galvin should have hated it. Everyone thought that he hasn't had experience of the track. Obviously, would have schooled. Elliott does that a lot with the horses, but he was fresh to the discipline. Finished second, and he actually loomed up to Delta Work. Looked a serious threat. Fair play, Delta Work won. He also finished 4th in the national last year on soft ground. So yes, he does. Ideally, it'd be good ground, and you get stuck into it. But I don't actually think he's that ground dependent is what a lot of people think. Just look back at his form. He finished 4th in the national last year off 155. Year before that, he was rated 166. He finished second to Delta Work in that race. Again, on that soft ground that he should have hated. March 2022, he was rated 168. He finished 4th in the Gold Cup. Now he's 11 years old, so that might be kind of the top scale. You might think, okay, yeah, he was rated that, but what's he got now? Well, Delta Work was rated 11, and last year he was vying for favouritism. Obviously, we don't get to know how the race unfolded because they cancelled it, but he finished second in a Grand National at age 11, and we know how well that form kind of crosses between the two. Tiger Roll, he won the race as an 11-year-old, and I think you have to take the hint that Gordon Elliott saw his mark and thought, I'm happy with that, I'm going to leave him off. And we've also had experience of Gordon Elliott doing this. Nationalised Chase year, he ran in an October race at the track, and then Gordon Elliott just laid him out, didn't run him until March, and he won. He also did the same for the Festival Novice Handicap, and that used to be around. He ran in November, and then he put him away, came back in March and finished second. If you look at Galvin, when he's had a break of over 100 days, he's finished first, eighth, second, and fell. The one time he finished eighth was in a novice cross-country handicap in the winter, where I just think he had no wanting for winning. So yeah, you look at his record fresh, his record at the festival, his previous ratings, I think he's a absolutely huge danger. Obviously being a handicap, I think it wasn't a handicap, he's probably my best bet of the week. It obviously brings it completely into play. I'm on Battleton, I'm on Galvin, I'll do the reverse forecast. But yeah, I can't get away from Galvin as much as I like your case.
You do realise that making such a strong case against the Naiad is it's a red card offence. You're off. You are off. And would it not concern you and worry the life out of you that I've spent the last 3 weeks researching cloud seeding? Okay, on to the Grand Annual. So, Rich, what wins?
Well, I'm a great believer that the best form to look at when you're looking for a Cheltenham Festival winner is the previous year's festival. And Unexpected Party did it last year, £6 higher this year, and I think he'll do it again. I think he's still on a good. The bottom line is he's probably going to carry 11.2 this year. I think he carried 10.10 last year. That's still a decent mark, and I think he's got a cracking chance. He's still about 7-1, I think. So I can see the case for Jazzy Matty. He's getting £9 from Unexpected Party, but I think Unexpected Party's got the form in the book. He'll do for me.
John?
Yeah, again, what I can't have is my mate Mozzie. He's going to be tipped up left, right, and centre. He's a really solid horse, and he can get as close as he wants to the winner, but he's not going to pass a horse, is he? He's even been given opportunities on the flat of really low weights and not managed to get past sort of horses that are weighted way above their true ability. The one I like here, and probably one of my better bets from the handicaps, is the King of PRS for Gavin Cromwell. He finished third to a horse called Ampar Dar, who ended up winning at the DRF. Now, when he finished 13th, he was only a half length back. He gave him £16. He only has to give him £4 here, and has since gone on to win at Fairy House as well. I think that form stacks up really nicely. Ampar Dar also beat my mate Mozzie at the DRF. So for me, I think the King of PRS here has got about £10 to £12 on a few of the horses here. He's your ideal Grand National horse, Grand Annual horse, I beg your pardon. And Cromwell knows what he's trying to sort of look for in these sort of horses. Also, he's got a bit of a angle on his own horses here with the King of PRS beating Pat Daru, who's a very talented horse. He's just a real box ticker for me here. He's weighted to go very close indeed.
Yeah, just a few trends on the race. Obviously, Rich, you mentioned about previous experience in this race in particular. Yeah, it's massive. And actually, with Unexpected Party, if you look, he got up £11 for last year's win. He's actually been campaigned to now get 5 off. But if you look at the horses that were around in that day.
For Dan's horses, he probably runs 3. Dalston Lad, who's won a couple of numbers already. I think Tristan rides him. Keops to Board was a horse that they rate really highly and want to put in, for next season and for when he goes chasing. They really like him. Possibly doesn't have enough speed for a bumper, but he may well go there anyway. And a lot of people sort of went away from Fortune de Mer because that last run at Huntingdon when he finished 4th, but just pulled for his head in a slow run race, and Harry didn't want him at the front, just burn himself up. So they more or less wrote the race off, but they really like him. They both him and Keops de Board came out the same point to point, but they're very different types. Keops de Board will be, hopefully future Gold Cup type horse, whereas Fortune de Mer is probably 2, maximum 2.5 miles in time, lots and lots of speed, and that's a horse that will really benefit from the strong pace of the Champion Bumper. So I suspect Fortune de Mer will be one of the few horses there that will outrun its odds. So, okay, we'll take a quick break there. We've got 2 more days to do. Quick 5 minutes if you want to refresh your glasses and go to the loo. and then we should be finished in about 40 minutes.
No, those backs on now. They're still recording. Yeah, I had to recarry the recording.